Good afternoon, good evening, hello everybody. How are you? I am your host, Dave McHugh, and welcome into Hoopsville. It took us a little while to get on the air if you're trying to tune in live. If you're listening to the podcast, it doesn't really matter. But we are back on the air and finally here, and we hope you enjoy the show. Lots to talk about in Division III basketball. Sorry for our delay, a little bit of tech issues behind the scene. Nothing to do with the tweet I put out about the lovely dinner I was having. Everything to do. Which is some issues on the tech side. They prop up when we can't control them, needless to say. I hope you will enjoy the show. If you got questions for us, you can always tweet us at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville. You can email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. You can join us on Facebook, Facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we are simulcasting the broadcast. Hope everybody can get a chance to tune in and watch that if need be. Et cetera, et cetera. Lots of ways, as we always say, to tune into the show. We hope you'll take advantage of them. We try and keep up in as many forms as we can as to where you are asking questions. So ask them. Just be also cognizant. There could be a delay. We may not be able to get to something. It's part of the course. I'm skipping around. I'm actually lost one of my 3 monitors, which is making things a little bit more difficult, meaning I'm not going to be able to see as much as I normally do, but we will do what we can. Lots to talk about, as we said. It was another one of those weeks. We saw it Wednesday. Obviously, when we talked on Thursday's show, we were already discussing the fact that we are in for a rocky week of games because we had already had a number of upsets, especially in the top 10. It continued, no surprise, with buzzer beaters and rallies. And, I mean, Wash U had a battle with Chicago on the men's side, almost pulled off a birthday gift for Mike McGrath's Chicago team. Mike McGrath celebrating his birthday. They almost pulled off the big upset of Wash U, but Wash U rallied from behind to win by 1 on Saturday. Worcester got past Ohio Wesleyan, though I think there was some argument as to whether that was a good finish. There may have been a travel that someone got away with. Let's see. Wash U again beat Chicago. They actually scored the last 8 points of the game, which was pretty impressive. Buzzer beater in the NJAC. TCNJ beat Ramapo, who has now lost a few in a row, on a buzzer beater, and we may try and bring you that, but we're having issues across the board, even with email, if you can believe it. We'll try again to start our email, but we're having issues with everything today on multiple computers, so it hasn't been great, but we'll get to it. Yeah, emails may not even start up on our main computer, but we'll keep an eye on things. Let's see, what else? River Falls was able to get past Whitewater. Sorry, number 3 River Falls got past number 5 Whitewater. That was one of the other crazy finishes in men's basketball yesterday. It just added to the craziness, to say the least. I know there's a ton of things being discussed in the top 25 boards. I can't even read them because I'm just trying to get to the latest poll from our Daryl Nestor, who usually puts up who finished what. It's my easy way of figuring out who did what in each top 25. And here we go. Whitman is about the only one unscathed in the top 10. They got past Pacific and Lewis Clark, no surprise. Augustana, as we know, lost to Illinois Wesleyan and they at least rebounded against Millikan. We mentioned River Falls getting past Whitewater last night. Of course, they had lost to Stevens Point, as we mentioned. Middlebury lost 2 out of 3. They had a top 15 battle against Wesleyan that Wesleyan won. Of course, Wesleyan had lost to Williams. So there's one of those trilogies you got to figure out. Williams defeated Wesleyan. Wesleyan defeated Middlebury. Where do you put everybody? Whitewater, as we mentioned, lost. Lycoming, as we talked about with their head coach on Thursday, lost to Lev Val, but then came back to beat Stevenson by 12. But that game wasn't even that close. It was like a 30-point game at one point. Oshkosh beat Whitewater, as we point out, or lost to Whitewater earlier in the week, but then got back and beat La Crosse. Ohio Wesleyan lost to Worcester by 3, as we discussed. Wesleyan, as we discussed, lost to Williams, then beat Middlebury. Wartburg lost to Coe. New Jersey City lost to Montclair State. That was back on Wednesday, but at least got past Rowan this weekend. Nichols took their second loss of the season, this time to Western New England in overtime, 194. Rochester lost to Emory, 80-62. 18-point loss by Rochester Emory. To quote Ryan, we'll talk to him later, Emory may be finally clicking, something we've all been waiting for. Juniata suffered its first loss of the season. They barely got past Lancaster Bible. We talked about them on the show last show per a question. Catholic blitzed them 82-70. I don't even think it was that close. Hanover, who was receiving votes, lost yet again in the middle of the week. I don't know if we mentioned it on Thursday's show, but they lost by 2 to Rose-Hulman. Albright suffered another loss. They're going to probably pop out of my top 25. Marymount beat them 60-58. Amherst lost twice this weekend. They're now 7-4. I don't know how much more the Mammoths will get votes in the top 25. I haven't voted for them all season, but Eastern Connecticut beat them by 3, and then Trinity Connecticut beat them by 6 in 2 very different games. Amherst lost to Eastern Connecticut 95-92, and then lost to Trinity 69-63. Trinity's got a few good games this season. Nebraska Wesleyan took its first loss of the season, losing to Buena Vista. They did get past Luther, but Buena Vista beat them 91-75. Bethel lost, Westminster lost, and Gwynedd Mercy lost. So a lot of teams who are receiving votes took hits, as it were. I'm not overly surprised at this point because we're getting used to seeing losses. It's almost impossible not to see losses. On the women's side, it's even crazy. Oshkosh lost twice. Came into the week undefeated 10-0. They lost to Whitewater on Wednesday. They lost to La Crosse on Saturday. So the Titans taking a bit of a hit. Tufts lost a second time. This time the Bowdoin 66-53. The Tufts, who had been number 1 going into the holidays, has lost 2 out of 3 games, I think, or at least 2 out of 4. Marymount upended Christopher Newport on what was that? It was Saturday, 77-67. We mentioned Trine had lost to Hope earlier in the week. They at least ended their losing streak by beating Olivet rather easily. Rochester had to survive against Emory, 72-68 in double overtime, but at least won. Whitewater, as we pointed out, had beaten Oshkosh earlier in the week. Well, then they lost to River Falls. The WIAC race on both the men's and women's side is going to be crazy to watch. Ohio Northern looked really good on the women's side, beating Marietta 72-57. Of course, Marietta, kind of the darling. That's their first loss of the season. But nonetheless, a good top 20 battle there. Wash U lost to Chicago 82-76. Of course, this is on the women's side. Randolph-Macon, which was getting votes, had a bad week, taking 2 losses to Shenandoah and Eastern Mennonite. Rochester Tech lost early to Rochester, though that's probably not too much of a surprise. Bluffton lost to Transylvania, but they got 2 more wins. So even on the women's side, things are crazy, and we are getting in emails from individuals, and we certainly appreciate it. We will get to some of these as soon as we can. We're running a little bit behind tonight, so if you don't mind sticking around, we will get to those questions a little bit later. Ira Thor sharing on Facebook that he's doing his ballot now, and I want to drive a nail through my keyboard. Absolutely agree. I'm looking at my top 25. I haven't started the process yet, though I have the printout, and, of course, I have my old ballot. I'm trying to think. Augustana, they lost, right? Trying to double check that. No, I don't have it. Of course I don't have it in front of me. I thought I had it in front of me. I got to keep that men's top 25, what do they do list just directly in front of me. Here we go. Yeah, so Augustana lost. So that's my number 2 team loss. My number 3 team loss. Number 4 team loss this week. Number 5 team loss this week. Number 6 team loss this week. Number 7 team lost this week. So 2 through 7 so far are losses. St. John's at least won for me. Williams won this week. So 8 and 9 are okay. My number 10 team lost. My number 11 team lost. Though in my ballot, they lost to a higher ranked team and they beat a higher ranked team. That's Wesleyan. MIT, well, they won. So I got 3 so far between 8 and 12. Wartburg lost, Ramapo lost, Whitewater lost. York didn't. York at least keeps on winning. They got past Salisbury this week, 84-81. That's a solid win for the Spartans. Nichols lost. Let's see, where else here? Rochester lost. Wittenberg at least won. They won twice, so that's good. Baldwin Wallace. Let's see. I have Baldwin Wallace sitting in my 20 spot, and Baldwin Wallace is receiving votes. They at least won twice. St. Norbert is in my 21 spot. And St. Norbert won twice, including over Grinnell in a relatively low-scoring affair, 97-85. John Carroll is in my top 25, and they won both times. Skidmore, they won both, though they got past Union in overtime, 94-83. Albright lost, we mentioned, and, of course, Hamilton, and Hamilton won twice. So here's the crazy part for me. Outside of Whitman in my number one slot, most of my top 10 lost. The middle third was split, and the bottom third won. That causes chaos in the top 25, plain and simple. There's almost nothing you can do in that scenario that you're going to be happy with. Because you want to, it's in a scenario where you want to move the teams that lost possibly down. You want to move the teams that won up. But when you have the very top winning and the very bottom, or very top losing and the very bottom winning, I'm not one to just flip my ballot. I have Albright and Hamilton. Well, a bad example in Albright. I have Skidmore, Hamilton, John Carroll, St. Norbert, and Baldwin Wallace in my last 5 slots because I think they're one of the last 5 teams, not because I think they're one of the first 5 teams. I'm not going to suddenly move them all up into the top 5. It doesn't make any sense. But this might be the perfect week to just blow up the ballot. Apparently, we're going to have some icy snow in. We have a broken washing machine here in this lovely home. Getting a new one tomorrow shipped in. While I'm doing laundry, I can blow up my top 25. I have plenty of time. Oh, also a dead battery in my car, so I'm not driving anywhere. So I've got time to blow up my ballot, but it's going to be complicated because not only are the 25 teams I'm voting for, there's teams that, if you read my blog, are also in the conversation that I haven't voted for. Lycoming, of course, they lost. Juniata, of course, they lost. Whitworth, I think they won, so at least I got one in there. Emory and Henry, we'll talk to them. They got through a good weekend. At least maybe I can kind of lean on the Wasps a little bit. But it's not going to be easy for top 25 voters, and I don't blame Ira for saying he's going to put a nail through his keyboard. I used to joke every once in a while on the blog about erasing through the paper. I might end up erasing through the paper or using lots of pieces of paper. And again, here's our top 25 printout with everything on it. The one thing I can promise you about my top 25, Whitman's number 1. That's all I've got. The rest of it's going to be blown up. And it's good, too. It's frustrating as a voter because you're going to have to spend some time. You're going to have to dive in. You're going to have to look around to see if you're missing something. You're going to feel unsure about yourself. That's rough. But as a fan of Division III, this is awesome because we get good games and we get good competition, and none of it's laissez-faire. Even the women have to look at their ballots a little bit more and really dive into things. I mean, Oshkosh lost twice. Insane. So that's kind of what's going on in my head after another crazy week. I see a bunch of emails coming through, folks. I will definitely get to some of those here as soon as I can. Really appreciate it. And so on and so forth. Haven't even talked about the guests we have on. Let's talk about the guests that we have on tonight. Coming up after the break, we will talk women's basketball. Go to Tim Shanahan at Staten Island. Team's having a pretty good season. They recently lost to MIT, but that's not the end of the world, as it were. One person I know says they think they're a second weekend team in the NCAA tournament. I wonder if Tim agrees. We'll talk to him coming up. Then we'll head out to the Central region. Roy Maholland from Greenville women's basketball team will join us. Fascinated in the Panthers, see how they're doing in the SLIAC. Then we'll come back to the East Coast and debut the NABC Coaches Corner. Charlie Brock from Springfield will join us. You'll love to hear what the team does during the winter intercession at Springfield with local elementary students. Terrific program. We'll talk to Charlie Brock about that. Of course, he's one of the vice presidents on the NABC board. Then we'll head down to southwestern Virginia. Talk to David Wilson of Emory and Henry. We will talk to the Wasps. As you know on this show, sometimes as a voter, I've got questions for a team. I will use the platform if I can to get those questions answered. What are we missing or don't understand about the Wasps that maybe we should know? And man, they will get votes, I would assume, at this point, but we'll find out more from them. And then we'll wrap up the show with a top 25 preview per se. We don't have a really catchy name yet. We will come up with one, but Ryan Scott will join us as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville and hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. And of course, you can I said email. You can always find other ways to get a hold of us. Again, emails are lined up. I appreciate it. We will get to them. Technical difficulties with a monitor down makes us a little bit more challenging, but we will do our best. That's it for now. We'll be back. Women's basketball, Staten Island, Tim Shanahan, coming up next on Hoopsville.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I did.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you got questions for us, as we said, email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com, tweet us at d3hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville, or find us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. There are a number of people who are commenting on the Facebook page. I'm a little discombobulated tonight, warning you now. We've lost a monitor for whatever reason. Every once in a blue moon, it just doesn't want to light on. The computer refuses to accept it for whatever reason. So anyway, my point being, as I thought I just played a little ditty. That's because there we go. There we go. As a result, I'm used to things in certain places. They're not in those places. So I'm trying to read across over here to the one thing, over to here to another, maybe in front of my screen. So bear with us as we get going here tonight on the show. We're also a little bit behind, so we're going to keep going. I ended up saying sir to our next guest. It's a habit of mine. Dates back from my TV days where we called everybody sir in a newsroom. It wasn't a respect thing, and I don't mean that negatively. It's just like, hey, sir, what's up, sir? How you doing, sir? So I said that to my guest, and he said, hey, stop it. I was called sir enough in my previous career. We have a whole nother line of questioning now to start off with, but let's talk about the Staten Island women's basketball team. 11-2 on the season, not too shabby. Maybe not the most incredible schedule ever conceived in the world, but they also have a cancellation against the team that made news over the holidays in New Jersey City. That said, they were 22-7 last year. They're the class of the CUNYAC at this point in time. And one person I know pretty well, who sometimes is pretty much on and sometimes is a little bit aloof, he said, listen, they could make the second week of the NCAA tournament depending on matchups without question. Well, let's find out if any of that is remotely true. Joining us on the Hoopsville Hotline, sponsored by the City of Salem, is Tim Shanahan, head coach of Staten Island. Coach, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for having me. And whoever you spoke to, the cart before the horse is the proverbial saying with that one.
I agree.
I still got the crux of my CUNY schedule to go through, and trust me, your mouth to God's ears, so to speak, being a good Catholic boy.
I hear you. I understand. I mentioned it a couple times now because I know he's listening to the show, so it's a little bit of a shot at him because when you guys unfortunately lost to MIT, I sent a note to him going, you sure about your predictions? Listen, but not all of that aside, you are 11. The squad is 11-2. You're coming off a pretty solid season last year.
Yes.
I know the CUNYAC can fly under a lot of radars. It doesn't with us because we want to talk to as many people as possible. So tell me, what does this 11-2 truly mean for you guys in this season?
Well, look, it sounds odd. I spoke to John Alisi yesterday. We played Baruch, and I spoke to John, the men's coach there, who's a very good friend of mine. My son my son played for John, and so I have a very good relationship. And I'm bemoaning the fact that I'm not happy we were at 9-2 yesterday. And he looks at me and he goes, Timmy, I'm 6-6. And I go, John, and he goes, I understand where you're coming from. A lot of it is smoke and mirrors. Have we had big wins? Yes, we have. We beat NYU up at their other home now, Hunter, where we played them, and we beat them, and we had them almost the whole game. And, and we pretty much gave up the lead, but we controlled the pace. I lost to a D1 team, Wagner. I was beating them by 16 at one point, and we literally gave the game back to them. And I'm not crying. It was our own fault. I have a team, Dave, that controls its own destiny every game. They control literally their own destiny, how they play, what goes on, and how it happens. I've never been around this type of squad, and I've had these girls for the last few years.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful. I put them through the rigors, and they come back every day, and I coach them, and they're taught to play. People look at me and they go, "You go 94 feet, man to man, up and down. You push the ball, you run, you do this, you do that." And I go, "Hey, listen, after practice, games are a breeze because we scrimmage a ton in practice, and we go after each other. It's almost like European rules. Ball goes out of bounds. It's whoever gets it first, and you throw it right back in. I don't coach with a whistle, refuse to. They go by my voice. I have to correct something. I step onto the court. And a lot of time taking my life in my hands with them come standing by me. But, I get in and I get out and I tell them. But the main thing is there's a ton of respect between the young women I coach and myself. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way street, and I treat them like young women. Do you get aggravated? Do you get mad? Do you have your, as I say, your things come out of your mouth that you wish you could take back? Yes. Do I do apologizing? Yes. And I'm not bad on them, and I'm not. But I treat them like the way they should be. Young women, young collegiate women who working jobs, family issues, 5 million other things, but besides having to listen to a lunatic for 6 days a week, 2.5 to 3 hours a day, talk basketball. And I'm fortunate they play for me. They play for me. And not many coaches can say that. They play for me.
Well, I don't want to suggest walking out to stop things in the middle of a game, but you probably know that already. And your background
some refs have accused me of.
They don't like that.
One ref already remarked to me. He said that the extension of the coaching box is due to you. And I go, no. I says, I have a funny feeling Gino Oriema and a couple of D1 coaches suggested it and whispered in somebody's ear, and miraculously overnight, look what happened.
Yeah, well, I also think your former police officer experience knows you can step out into traffic if you absolutely necessarily have to.
Well, yeah, my background in law enforcement helps. I know when listen, my mother, God rest her soul, raised 4 kids by herself as a young police widow herself. And I learned about respect, but I also learned about respect for women.
Yeah. And
how to treat them and how to be around them and, what I can, do and not do. And mostly it's not do.
Yeah.
And it's not hard. Life's lessons weren't lost on me, and I'm not trying to be preachy or anything like that. But what I've gone through in life, basketball, losing a basketball game or having something go on in a basketball game, trust me, does not come near, me losing sleep at night.
Yeah, I understand.
Does not. I lose sleep, believe me, and I get aggravated because I feel if something happens, it's my fault because I didn't teach them the right way or I hadn't had them prepared the right way or something like that. But believe me, on the scale of like 1 to 10, a basketball loss or a tough win or something like that doesn't really, weigh heavily on me. It might not be what a lot of people would like to hear, but it's not that I take it lightly. I still put my 50, 60, 70 hours a week in like all coaches, most of us do. And I do my homework and like everybody does. But I also have a wife and 3 children that I'm concerned about, and I have other things. But, this is my life, and my family knows they lose me from the start of the school year till down the middle of March. And my wife goes, is my husband coming back around April?
Yeah, my wife goes through the same thing, and I'm not even putting in nearly as many hours as you guys are.
Yeah, you do it. People look at you, and you got your homework to do, and your tape, and your scouting, and we really put a lot into this.
Wait, you talked about respecting the women, and that's sometimes, I know you don't mean it that way, but sometimes that's a throwaway line for some people, especially in this day and age where we're now dealing with so much on the sexual misconduct. Let's put it that way. And I'm certainly not going in that direction. My point being, how much has that helped you as a head coach appreciate not only the players, but also appreciate the job you have to do in the sense of preparing them for the real world, for lack of a better description?
Well, I tell them, and I've been fortunate at CSI, because CSI is an excellent school. Academically, the CUNY's, there's a thing, it's, the best bang for the buck. It is.
Yeah.
You live in the tri-state area, and, CSI is known, most of the teachers in the tri-state area, if not in, the New York area, come out of the College of Staten Island because it's known for its education program and it's, a master's program. Their nursing program is one of the top on the Eastern Seaboard. Their PT program at CSI is known. So
absolutely.
My girls are there to get their educations. My 4 seniors are graduating on time. The 6 years I'm the head coach, all my girls have graduated.
That's amazing.
In the 11 years I've been there, and starting as an assistant with Marguerite Moran, and now, I think 98% of our girls have graduated. Another 2%, they at least got their master, not their masters, they got their associates. But not only that, they're already working. They're nurses and working towards their degrees, or they're police officers, or they're EMT. They're something in life. What I love about women and coaching women is how career-driven they are and how focused they are. And it's impressive. And I've been fortunate in the past few years, I guess, with my minor success, I've been offered things here and there. And, and it's been nice. And and I got it pretty nice. I make a right-hand turn up my block, and I'm at CSI with 2 lights and stopping at Dunkin' Donuts in about 7 minutes. So it's pretty neat. But the offers I got, 2 have been on the men's side, and they were very, very nice offers, and it would have been a wonderful situation for me, but I didn't want to coach men.
Sure.
Because I enjoy the women's game the way it is. It's pure basketball, the way I grew up in Brooklyn, and how I was taught basketball 101, and how they play it, how they go about it, and how focused they are, and incredibly focused, and how determined they are. I literally in practice got to pull the horses back. The reins back on them, because they will go at each other, because the competitive nature is incredible.
Well, you also got a number of New Yorkers on there, let's be honest. I've seen some New York attitudes.
It's a different breed. That's why they say the CUNY, and they can talk about the CUNY all they want. And sure, are we weak in some ends? Yes. And it's not it's just because the schools...
It's a different school.
They got their hands tied, a lot of these schools. They really, really do. And you feel for them.
Yeah.
Like Kellyanne Baruch kills herself. And because of this whole thing that went on there, the 2-year sanction, everything, you went from a team that was a powerhouse, and I mean a downright powerhouse.
Yeah.
And yet they're competitive, and the kids play for her, and they break her rear end. And although, our score didn't show it yesterday, we were a 9-point game at the half. We were a 9-point game at the half until my girls woke up in the second half and decided that, and it was strictly waking up. It wasn't they were doing things wrong. It was just, were taking things, not following shots, the basic stuff in basketball we talk about. And they have a tendency, my team, to sometimes not let the game come to them. Or or on the other hand, they let the game take too long to come to them.
Sure.
And it was like that at MIT last week. Sonia's team came out, and listen, it's MIT. They're smart on and off the court. And they would go 26, 27 on the clock before they let a shot go. But it would be a really good shot, and Sonia was smart. She scouted me well. She would send 3 kids back to make sure my running game got limited. But we also had our opportunities to win.
Yeah.
We missed key foul shots at the end. We missed layups. We missed, a couple of things. And listen, I had my one kid, Jackie Cowley, right in front of me, put the 3 up at the buzzer.
Yeah.
And it was dead on. That I literally, what's left of my knees, I jumped as much as I could jump. I thought the ball was going in. And the ref said to me after the game, he goes, Coach, I got to be honest with you. I was ready to raise my arms for the 3.
Yeah.
That's how close it was.
I can understand.
And And it was a great game. It was a great experience for them. Boston was a little chilly. 2 degrees is 2 degrees.
Hey,
I'm out here on a street in Brooklyn right now, and it's 16. And I'm shivering a little bit, but not like it was in Boston last week.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, tell me a little bit about this team. It's a senior-laden squad.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's an opportunity this year to take advantage of that. Your top 4 leading scorers, the 4 of your 5, well, basically your top 5 scorers are all starters. 4 of those 5 are seniors, and Christina Pastoro, Samantha Flecker, Angelique Price, and Victoria Cray. And then you mentioned the junior Jacqueline Callie, averaging, let's see, I had it in front of me. Where did it go on me? Hello. There it is. 24 points a game for Pastoro, 15 points a game for Flecker, 8.6 for Price, Cray at 7.3, 5.2 for Callie. And then you have a number of other players. But this is really about this senior class, is it not?
Yes, listen, I'm fortunate. When I went after Chrissy and Sam, they were like 1 and 1A when I recruited them. And I knew about Chrissy. Chrissy, fortunately, also played with my daughter in high school, my younger daughter, Olivia, who was a sophomore at the time, played at Notre Dame Academy. And I saw Chrissy in her junior year, and I said, I got to get this kid because, listen, I tell her, she's not the greatest on defense. I've gotten her to play defense, and it's like a running thing that goes on between us. She's an assassin. I tell her, you get paid to shoot and score, no matter how you do it. And she's got this uncanny knack that she literally is one of those kids who you, at the end of a game, go, she had how many points? Because I don't pay attention to what goes on, point-wise as a coach. And like a lot of coaches will tell you. And they'll come to me at the end of the game and show me her stat line and go, well, she had, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. I go, what? She had 24 points?
Yeah.
But that's the type of kid she is. And probably one of the most, she just got accepted into New York Law School on a full scholarship. That'll tell you.
Good for her.
God bless her.
What school?
Sam Flecker, nobody knows this, but was playing and was sick with pneumonia. Her first game at MIT last week, they beat the hell out of her. She was exhausted, but she was coming off of pneumonia. She was out for about 2 weeks during the time when we had the break.
Right.
She was sick as a dog, literally, in a hospital one night with 104 fever, this, that, the other thing, and then arguing with me that she wanted, after being out of the hospital for a day or two, after staying overnight, why couldn't she come to practice?
Coach, I'm fine.
I'm fine, Coach.
Right, exactly. Coach, I can't run, but who cares?
No, but she's my best all-around player by far. I mean, what she does, and on and both sides of the court, incredible. And Angelique Price is probably the most gifted and most talented young woman I've coached, but you just got to get it out of her.
Yeah.
She's the one I tell, and this is, I don't threaten, but I say, Ange, you're the one who's going to come back to me next year or wherever I am and come to me and say, I miss this more than anybody.
Yeah.
I said, because you turn it on, and when she turns it on, and she did it at the MIT game, I made a play at the end of the first half, the first of the regular time, where she had the ball at the high post, and she blew past the girl and the 2 other girls going to the basket to tie the game with a couple of seconds to go. It wasn't even close.
Yeah.
But she's got that type of ability. It's incredible. Her natural talent is incredible. Last year at CUNY, last week, Lehman and Brooklyn games, she took over. She really, even Chrissy said, Pasatoro, the type of kid Pasatoro is too, who's here she is about to score 2,000 points. She's the all-time leader at CSI. She might be one of the all-time leading scorers in CUNY ever.
Wow.
All this stuff, but yet is the most she's more worried about team than she is anything. She said when she got the MVP, I don't deserve this, and should have got it. That's the type of kid she is. Pasatoro. And Cray is Cray. She swims. They got her swimming. Her legs are killing her. She tore her ACL. She's hurting. Her T-band on her other leg is killing her, and doesn't beg out of games. The only time I take her out is she starts limping because she has this big brace, and she hears things from me because 50 pounds ago I was a point guard, and I see things on the court a certain way, and she hears it from me, and yet is probably the most decent young woman. She's had some family tragedies in the last 2 years. She lost her brother recently, and she lost her dad a couple of years ago.
That's too bad.
And you never know it. And also going to be accepted into nursing school and moving on and doing everything. Sam Flecker, the same thing, graduating. You had better watch yourself. She's graduating with a communications degree.
Oh, boy.
And Angelique Price is graduating with a degree in psychology and looking to become a police officer. So I'm proud of them. I really, really am proud of them, as you can tell in my voice.
Absolutely.
They're like daughters. They're like 14, 15 daughters I have.
I could talk
and
with you.
My family accepts it, but I treat them, like I say, I treat them like daughters. You know, you get mad, you get upset, and everything.
Sure.
Then you realize it's a basketball game, but
Yeah, right.
I treat them with the respect they're due. And I always tell them, do not let anybody treat you other than the way you should be treated as young women. And I said, if they do treat you any differently, you call Coach, and Coach will explain and take care of things a certain way. And I'll explain to the young man or somebody how they treat a lady. Don't call anybody else. Let Coach take care of it. I'll be more than happy to explain a few things.
And for anybody who doesn't know, you're a former police officer.
I'm a former New York State. I was a former New York State court officer.
Yeah, you don't mess with you. You don't mess with anybody who has police training.
Major. You know, I'm the same as an inspector in the court, inspector in the police department.
What made you come to coaching? I mean, you talked earlier about why you wanted to coach, but I mean, what makes you come out of police work to be a coach?
Well, I got hurt in the line of duty.
Okay.
What happened is,
I
got hurt. I was on the Staten Island ferry the day it crashed. So it's a long story. I've had 9 surgeries.
Oh, wait, the famous crash?
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
Coach,
in
I'm sorry.
2003. I was
I
on
know
it.
that
I
one,
went to go help people. I've had 9 surgeries. Now, I didn't even want to get into it, honestly.
No, that's fine.
Long story short, dear friend of mine, Tom Scalfani, who I grew up with in Brooklyn, coached at Highland Park High School. After about a year or so, called me up one day and says, what are you doing? And I was home, and after all these surgeries, come coach with me.
No.
2 years Highland Park High School, 1 year in the Utrecht High School in Brooklyn, my alma mater, with my friend John Shea. And then I went, and Marguerite Moran happened to run into me. Matter of fact, my daughter Allie, who's on my coaching staff this year, as a matter of fact, who was a 1,000-point scorer at CSI and wound up grad assistant at Fairleigh Dickinson and then working at the NBA for a few years. But she was recruiting, Allie and a few others, and kidding around with me one day says, if you know anybody, I need an assistant coach. And kidding around, I said to her, geez, do you need any broken down beliefs of a man who, kidding around. Well, the next morning I get a phone call. Come up to CSI. We want to talk to you. Wow. And the rest is history. That was 11 years ago.
That's amazing.
And never in a million years, listen, even I pinch myself some days. And I have friends of mine who's in the business world and who's this, who's that. They're mad at me because I'll tell them days I can't get off the phone. I got to go down to practice, and they say certain things, expletives, because they want to be me, coaching and doing.
I don't blame them.
But I want to be them, making 6- and 7-figure salaries.
Yeah, I don't blame you either, Coach. Hey, quickly, you played Lancaster Bible yesterday. Easily beat them, but a fan of ours wants to know what you thought of Courtney Goyak on their team.
The big girl.
Yep.
Oh, man, let me tell you something. It started off where I didn't really have Jackie Cali. I'm undersized, so to speak. And we started off with a zone on them, and then she was just dominating. In the first quarter, although we were ahead, she was just like eating us up alive inside. That's where they were getting us. And then finally what happened is one of their other girls was getting a little tired, and the old coaching brain clicked off, and I said, let me get out of this zone stuff. And let me go back to my running up and down the court and pushing and going after them. And that's what happened. But honestly, I think she's one of the best players. That I was kidding around with their coach after the game. I said, I'm recruiting her during the summer because I love to her. What a good player. She uses her body incredibly well. And know what's great, Dave? She's a big kid who knows she's a big kid and knows where she's supposed to be. She doesn't look to shoot the 15 to 20-footer. She knows her range is 10 feet, 7 feet and in. She uses her body extremely well. She sets screens. She gives herself up, but she's always rolling towards the hoop, and she's tough. Let me tell you, she's as tough a big girl as I played this year. We played against a couple of good ones. Even a kid up at MIT last week, the freshman.
Yeah.
She was excellent, big player.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate the time you took. Behind the scenes, we won't explain, but I know it wasn't exactly the best timing for you, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Good luck the rest of the season.
You, Dave.
Well,
Anything for you.
Thank you, Coach. Good luck the rest of the season. And as always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuning in?
I just want to say thank you to you because, D3, we tend to get overlooked. Everybody thinks, oh, this, that, and the other thing, even when I go out recruiting. And yet, when I smacked the D2 team in scrimmaging, I beat Wagner. I should have beat Wagner 2 years in a row. You know, and there's teams in our conference, Hunter, Brooklyn, Lehman, D3 is a force to be reckoned with as far as school-wise going. You got to give these kids a lot of credit. You know, they're the prototypical student athletes. They're doing it for the love of the game.
Yeah.
And they really are, and I think they should be given a lot more credit. And I think D3 and people like you, Dave, and I mean this in my heart, I really give you credit because I'm a big fan of yours, whether you know it or not. And I think it's wonderful you do because you bring recognition to this. And these kids deserve recognition. Not everyone wants pats on the back all the time and this and that. And their coaches, they get tired of hearing us too because it's white noise after a while. But for somebody like you out there and really championing the cause, I think is a wonderful thing. And, I might be a little wordy, but I mean it from my heart.
Well, thanks, Coach. I appreciate that. Good luck the rest of the season. Enjoy it. I know you will. And we look forward to probably talking to you down the road.
Your mouth to God's ears again.
I hear you, Coach.
Tell your friend, stop with the cart before the horse stuff. But then you're going to tell me who he is, and I'm going to track him down.
He's not that hard to find, and I'd be happy to share with that information off air. Coach, take care. We'll talk soon.
Dave, thank you again. You have a good night, my friend.
Thank you. You do.
Good night, my friend. Bye-bye, Dave.
Tim Shanahan joining us here on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline. Again, the team is 11-2 overall. Their losses to non-Division III Wagner, I emphasize D1 Wagner, and MIT in overtime. They will take on Medgar Evers, 0-12, unfortunately, and Hunter coming up in the next week. Both those games on the road. Should be a fun team to watch. Keep an eye out for them. We'll see how that all transitions from there. We're going to take another break. When we come back, a little behind schedule, so we're going to try and keep things up here. We'll stick with women's basketball, jump out to the SLIAC, the St. Louis Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, and we'll talk to Roy Mulholland about the Panthers of Greenville. What are they up to? You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and NABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
For the love of the game. But for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that. A lot more.
Sure. The game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
This is why we love sports. It's in the way they play. Free from the pressures and all the money talk. Playing for simply the love of the game, where everyone has a shot at their definition of success on and off the field. This is what we love about sports, and what we can still love about college sports.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the show. As always, you can tweet us at D3Hoops or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. We've already answered one question. I know we got a question about non-conference schedules that we will certainly get to. And I got another question in there. What was it about? Ramapo and some other things. So we will get to those questions, I promise. May have to wait till a little bit to the end of the show, but I will get to them. I promise you. Sticking with women's basketball, Staten Island, great conversation with Tim Shanahan. I appreciate him taking the time to do that. We're switching out to the SLIAC now. Honestly, we don't talk to the SLIAC as much as we probably should. That's probably partly our fault, but at the same time, sometimes it's hard to really kind of put a trigger on who do we want to talk to and when. Well, right now, the team that jumped out at me easily was Greenville. The Panthers are 11-2 this season. They were a sneaky 23-9 last year. They're 6-0 in the conference. Remember, they play a lot of conference games. But what's really intriguing to me is the fact that they haven't played a lot of, they played a lot of non-Division III games is what I should say. There's, I believe, 4. There are 4 on their roster. They got one more coming on the schedule to make for non-Division III. yes, they got easily beat by WashU. Maybe no surprise there, but they're going to probably represent the SLIAC, so we should probably learn more about Greenville. So Roy Mulholland joins us on the Hoopsville hotline. And, Coach, I appreciate you taking the time. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So give me the lowdown here. This is a squad that I know you've had success with, but we haven't really had a time to dive in and better understand. What is Greenville this season? And with this non-Division III schedule, it's hard to figure out, how good are you maybe?
Well, and maybe that's a question we're still trying to figure out as well as we move along. But we've really had two solid seasons the last 2 years. So 2 years ago, we won the conference tournament and played WashU in the first round of the national tournament.
Yeah.
And then we also play in the NCCA, which is the National Christian College.
Yes.
And last year we were able to win that national tournament. So I think those experiences have really set this team up. They believe that they can win. We just graduated 2 kids last year. And so I think kind of the expectations for our kids coming in this year were pretty high, and so far they've been able to achieve at the level that I think we ought to be achieving at.
Yeah, as they say, somebody had to play WashU, right?
Yeah.
And, of course, you scheduled them mid-season this year, and Nancy Faye moves on, and unfortunately you couldn't take advantage of that opportunity. But what does a game against a WashU mean for a program like yourselves?
Well, it's an important game, and it's a big game, and it's one of the reasons we scheduled. Kind of the backstory there was after they beat us in the national tournament, I waited until they got beat, until they got out of the tournament. About 2 weeks later, I called Nancy. Nancy was still there, and I said, Coach, you have any room on your schedule? And she literally laughed at me on the phone, and I said, Coach, why are you laughing? And she said, nobody calls me for games. I have to go find games. And I said, hey, if we're going to begin to think about playing at that level, and if that's the level we're going to try to achieve at, then we've got to play those folks. We've got to play those people. And so I said, let's go home and away. And now we're backed up for another home and away the next 2 years. And, again, it's a great learning experience for us. But if we're ever going to begin to continue to climb at that pace, we're going to have to play that kind of a team and learn to play at that level.
Well, and hats off to you, because I know coaches that do that, and yes, they may be beat, but it's a learning experience down the road. I don't knock it whatsoever for a program like yourselves, because that can come back and be helpful. Let's say you do get scheduled against WashU in the NCAA tournament. Maybe you actually know something about them.
Yeah, exactly. And also, it's, the SLIAC is probably not the most physical conference around.
Right.
So it's maybe a little bit more, I don't know if finesse is the right word, but when we play teams like WashU, then we begin to understand what it's like to play a little more physical style of game, how to work through that. I just think it benefits our kids in all kinds of ways. Playing in a gym where they have national championship banners hanging from the ceiling, and it's just a good experience for them. They soak it in. We learn from that. And certainly if we would see WashU or a team like WashU down the road, I feel like we will be better prepared to go in and attack that.
I had a guest on our last show out of California, had a lot of non-Division III games on their schedule, and one of the things he said, and maybe I'm taking a little bit of the answer away of the pending question, is, we already know we have to win the conference to get in, that making sure we schedule enough D3s isn't the end of our world. Is this a scenario where you kind of know the landscape in front of you, and so busting your rear end to make sure you only have a D3 schedule isn't the end of the world, or is there another story behind the 5 games against non-D3s?
Yeah, I think there's a both and. So that certainly is part of it for us. We know the winner of our conference tournament is going to get the bid, and probably at this stage for our conference, nobody else. We're not going to get a second one. And then also for us, we always have to keep this eye on this NCCAA piece for us.
Gotcha.
And playing those other teams in terms of an overall point system that's used helps us. So I think both playing maybe a little bit higher competition, we hope, but kind of keeping an eye on both of those things that we participate in is part of that process.
Makes total sense. And that's that other end that we don't know as much about, which breeds those questions. And so obviously you're kind of hedging your bets, as it were. If you don't make the NCAAs, you want to be in position to play for the was it the NSCAA? I forgot.
NCC.
NCCAA, that's right. Yep, I remember that. So you need to make sure you do what's best for the program no matter what, right?
Yeah, I think we owe that to our kids in terms of the overall responsibility. And Our first responsibility, our first focus, our the place that we're looking for is the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's it. There aren't many firsts left for our group right now after the last 2 years. But this group wants to win our conference. We have not hosted our conference tournament. And this group really wants to continue to try to go undefeated and host the conference tournament. That would be a first for this group of kids, a legacy for this group of kids. And then we've not won a first-round tournament game. And so that's still sitting out there for us to try to go get.
Fascinating, and certainly going to be fun to watch. I got to ask about this roster. I'm not sure. I think you left a few numbers in the equipment manager's office. 2, 4, and 5 are still available. That's it. Sorry, there's a couple 40 numbers, 43, 44, and 45. So you have 8 numbers, 7, 8 numbers you haven't used yet. Are you sure? Yeah. Are you sure you have enough people on this roster? Wow.
It's interesting because even as we go around, we don't find a lot of D3s with JV programs. And right now we have a full 24-team roster, and we play a 19-game JV schedule. So we're able to – only 3 of our varsity kids right now in this process where we're playing well have not played some JV time for us.
You mean in their careers?
In their careers.
Yeah, we don't mean this. We don't want to confuse anybody with this season.
Correct. No, not in this season,
right.
But in their careers as they've come up.
Okay.
We've been able to sort of continue this process of being successful 2 ways. One, having kids that got a lot of time. They're playing a lot of minutes in JV and a lot of games, and so they're able to step into holes as we graduate people. And then we've been fortunate to bring in some recruiting classes where we've had some kids who have immediately been ready to step in and help us.
You're also playing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in that way, we hope to sort of avoid the up and down process. We want to try to compete at a high level, stay at that high level, and then, like I say, continue to set our sights kind of on bigger pieces.
You play 19 players, and if anybody knows the history of this show, we certainly know your men's coach very well. He's one of our favorite interviews of all time. Great man. Actually, we have a Greenville jersey. Now that I mention about it. Yeah, there it is, sitting back off my shoulder.
That is awesome.
Yeah, no, it was a great surprise. My question, though, regarding them is, he's gone to the system. He talked to Grinnell. I look at some parts of the stats and say maybe you're dabbling in that department, though I don't see it completely. What is exactly going on with your mentality?
Well, it's a great question, and we get that quite a bit. So our men run the system,
right.
and we say we run the method. That's kind of how we describe what we do. It's not the 5-5 wholesale change.
Okay.
Sold out to the press in the 3, but it is definitely pressure. We're rotating. We rotate maybe 2 or 3 kids at a time. We pick our matchups, but we're playing 10 kids pretty regularly. That would be our typical. But we're getting after people. We're getting up and down the floor. We're trying to take advantage of the fact that we really do have 10 kids without a whole lot of drop off. We probably could go 12, maybe 14 if we had some injuries without hurting too bad. And we just aren't running into a lot of teams that have that kind of depth. So we want the game to get up and down the floor. We want the second half to be our game. We just don't do it quite the same way with quite the same chance as our men. We're not shooting the 3.
Right.
They shoot it in volume. And if you've checked out our stats, we shoot the 3 in percentage.
Yeah, I noticed that because you're only taking about maybe 18 shots a game on average, and you're hitting 44%. So that's a solid number. So you're not necessarily going down, heave up a 3. If we make it, great, come back, give them pressure, and if they get over midcourt, let them take a shot. You're playing a little bit of a hybrid of that with a little bit more intensity.
Yes, and part of the reason is because we have a great post game. So we have kids inside who can play inside and score inside, and we use a lot of inside out. And just to put that, I think we're right at 43.5%. Just to put that a little bit in perspective, not only does that lead Division III, but it actually ties to lead the nation in team field goal percentage, right, at 3 points. So we really are knocking it down at a high rate. And if you look at our roster, it's not 1 or 2 kids knocking it down.
No.
We got about 6 or 7 kids knocking it down at a high rate. And makes us pretty tough to prepare for, I think.
I got 6 players who at least shoot enough with a decent percentage. Maria Reinhardt is hitting 51%. She's basically 2 for 4 every game. Meredith Crossier is 37%, about 1 for every 4 or 2 for every 4. Naomi Johnson, maybe not the best percentage, but still takes enough shots. Janez Michael, Emily Brandland. Yeah, you like to make it interesting.
Yeah, here's an interesting one for you. So, Laura Goodnight is shooting about 71%, but she's only played 2 games for us.
I noticed
so we're actually doing this so far in the fact that she was our leading scorer, leading rebounder last year. 6'1", can hit the 3, as you can see.
Yeah.
And she's just been back for a couple of games. She was injured most of the first half. So we've been able to do this with our depth and with other kids stepping up without
her numbers through 3 games, and albeit it's 3 games, but folks, she's averaging 70% from the floor. She's 71% from beyond the arc. Her only problem is free throws, where she's 20%. But she is 16 for 23 from the floor, 10 of 14 from beyond the arc, 1 of 5 from the free throw line. I mean, those first 2 stat lines are ridiculous.
Yeah. And our biggest issue, if you want to call it an issue or a problem, is how do you go 9-2 before Christmas and then try to fit this kid back into the chemistry of your team?
Yeah,
which you obviously have to, and so so we're working on that process. But the other thing I think that really, and the stats show this, and people say this about our team, is we just have a ton of shooters, and we really don't have a selfish kid on the floor. They make the next pass. They trust their teammates. And so we're getting really good shots, and then we're able to knock them down.
All right, so the conference schedule is ahead. You're already off to a 6-0 start in the conference. Eureka's 8-5, 4-1. Webster's 9-4, 3-2, along with Webster, who's also 6-6. Yep. This feels like a conference that is set up for you to win, and now the pressure is living up to that expectation.
Yeah, I think that's true, and we have a real critical stretch coming up in about a week or so. So we go Webster, Eureka, West Min, 3 games back, bing, bing, bing. And that'll be critical. I mean, we're going to have to be able to play well through that stretch. All 3 of those teams are capable of knocking you off. And if we can get through that stretch, because those are really the 2, 3, and 4 teams right now in the conference, then I think we set ourselves up pretty well to prepare for a longer stretch there as we think about heading into the postseason. But I think those 3 games are going to be really just critical games for us to be able to go out and get the job done.
Fascinating. We'll look forward to seeing how it plays out. By the way, we should point out, anybody who's out there who's a football fan, you got hired in 1999, fall of 99, to take over the program. That's the last time the Buffalo Bills were in the playoffs.
Wow.
There you go.
Well, and now it makes me feel even older than I was thinking.
Doesn't it?
It's been a while.
Doesn't it make you feel old? Trust me, I know the feeling. Well, Coach, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Fascinating program. Tell Dr. Barber we send our love as well, but thank you for your time, and good luck the rest of the season. I'm fascinated with the Panthers, and I have a feeling we may be talking to you somewhere down the road.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you so much. Appreciate your show and all you do, and to be glad to talk to you down the road.
Absolutely. By the way, we do leave the final word to the guest. Any final thoughts you want to share with those tuning in?
No, I mean, I guess this is the other thing I say about my kids, and maybe it's a little bit off basketball, but we're doing it on the floor, but this is an amazing group of young ladies. I mean, they're getting it done in the classroom. We had a team GPA last year of 3.641.
Wow.
We were like 3rd in the nation in Division 3 or 4th. So it's just been a pleasure to coach this group of kids. They work hard, they get after each other, but they're getting it done on and off the floor. And that, coaching it's not frequently easy, but at this stage, it's been relatively easy with this group of kids. They're just a great group of kids to work with.
Well, enjoy the season, Coach, and win or lose, and thanks for taking the time. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. Roy Mulholland joining us from Greenville. Again, 11-2 for his ladies, 6-0 in the conference. They've got William Woods, non-Division III, coming up here on Tuesday. And then they'll get back into conference play almost the rest of the way. I actually forgot to mention Oakland City coming up later in the season, so there's 6 non-conference. But they got Spalding, Webster, Eureka, as he pointed out, coming up in the next 3 for the conference action. But thanks again for Coach joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline. Going to take a break. When we come back, we debut the NABC Coaches Corner. If you're a fan of the show, you're familiar with it because it's something we do for the WBCA, but we've had the Coaches Corner around for even longer. Joining us will be Charlie Brock. He's been a regular of the show from Springfield. We'll talk to him about his team, but also what his team does off the court that is so fascinating. along with his work with the NABC. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. More Hoopsville after this.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at D3Hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
Division III allows you to give yourself to other things.
Having that free time allows me to pursue the things that I want to pursue.
Division III athletics affords students the opportunity to, engage in the other interests in their campus and in their lives outside of that sport.
It allows you to just be able to do everything you want to do. I wouldn't change it for the world.
And welcome back to Hoopsville. I hope you are enjoying the show. We say that every time we come on a break, but we really do mean it. Hope you are enjoying it. We know we've got some interactions on our Facebook Live. We also know we have some interactions on our YouTube page. I've gotten some emails. I think we've even gotten some tweets. A couple of things coming up. Just a mental note. We still will talk to Emory and Henry. David Wilson's the head coach there, the Wasps, coming up on the show. Ryan Scott will join us via Skype, knock on wood, our tech works, to talk about the upcoming Top 25 that is out tomorrow and some of the sleepers that we have in the D3 world. Also, a couple other tidbits here and there. Again, if you have questions for us, email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can tweet us at d3hoopsville. You can or use the hashtag Hoopsville. You can also join us on our Facebook Live, and you can also join us on our YouTube page. If any way you want to interact and try and ask us a question, you can. We don't always get to every question, but we'll certainly do our best. I got a couple of questions lined up for the end of the show as well. Of course, we're coming from the WBCA NABC studios, and of course, the NABC has been a partner of Hoopsville for a number of years. In fact, this studio is very much a reason because of the NABC. It is here because of the NABC. We built it 9 years ago, believe it or not, when I moved into this home, and it is now, as you can see, it has got. If anybody knows this show as long as we've been around, the background keeps getting better and better, and it's thanks to guys like Charlie Brock. He's the head coach at Springfield. He is in a group of the NABC, have been big supporters of the show. We love having him on, but it's even better reason when we got an interesting topic to talk about. So we're debuting the NABC Coaches Corner tonight for the season. We've always had the corner, and Charlie is our first guest from Springfield, and he's on the City of Salem Hoopsville hotline. Charlie, thanks for taking the time, sir.
Very welcome. Nice to talk to you, Dave.
As always, it's nice to talk to you. First and foremost, team's having a pretty good season in what is arguably a wide open new MAC. That we can get to that in a bit. Same time, you're very much involved in community projects and NABC projects. You always seem to have a very full plate, sir.
I try. I keep my guys busy, and it's actually a time when we work at it because we're not in classes right now, so we don't want them sitting around, and so we keep them occupied. And one of the ways we do that is to go out to the schools in the area and with our reading program.
Yeah, that's the thing that got my attention. Your SID pointed out. I think you and I probably had talked about it, but it hadn't clicked. But you take your team out. You go into elementary schools, primarily 1st to 3rd grade, and it's not just, hey, look at us, we're basketball players from a college, we're going to spend some time with you. The guys really kind of get involved with the class. There's reading involved and whatnot. Can you give us a little bit of an idea of what they do in a general day in a classroom?
It's actually an initiative that was started back in the 90s, Dave, with the NABC. It was called the Dream to Read program. Since then, I was able to acquire funding from the city of Springfield every year. And with that money, we buy a bunch of T-shirts and some books and some other things. And when we go into the schools, we have a book that we really like that's pertinent to 1st through 3rd graders. It's called Rudy's Secret Cap. It has some points to make to the kids, and we read it to them. And then the guys each spend a little bit of time on each of their lives and what reading has meant to them as college students. And then the last thing we do is try to push them towards reading, and we have what we call a literacy awards program. And for every kid that reads 10 books, we give them a T-shirt. The teachers kind of take it over. We leave the T-shirts with them, and we'll see anywhere from 450 to 500 kids during this 2 or 3 week period of intercession, going into 3 or 4 different elementary schools.
It's one, you take advantage also of the fact that you've got this dead period class-wise at the school that everybody, not everybody, but a lot of teams have in January. So you're taking advantage of doing it while you're in season in a period of time where they're not overloaded with their classwork. Seems like the perfect timing.
Well, it is, and it's a time we can get our guys together at the same time. You know, with class schedules, it's hard to get a bunch of guys all together at the same time, and so that intercession helps in that regard. And so we'll go into a school for, maybe an hour and a half in the morning, and that's the kind of the duration of the program. And then they get into the reading, and that can take anywhere from, a couple of weeks to however long it takes them to read 10 books. And for that, they get a Dream to Read T-shirt that, any kid will do almost anything for a T-shirt. Yes. So if reading is one of them, then we're happy about it. And my guys have really embraced it. We've been doing it for, 20 years I've been here.
Wow.
So it's pretty much a stalwart of the program.
Knowing you as I know, you'd like to downplay a little bit of your role. Of course, the Dream to Read was started in the 90s, as you said, as part of the NABC champion, but by Fran Fraschilla, as many people would know, of course, on the academic committee that you were a part of as well. So this has kind of been a little bit of something you're very close to because you were part of starting that at the NABC. It's great that the city donates money. How else does the community get involved?
The city gets involved from that perspective monetarily. Then the other thing we do is bring as many kids as are able to campus to see a home game and their families with free admittance, and it's kind of fun. And it's just the community. It's from the community foundation. So one of their major things is to do as much as they can to keep kids who have got tough situations and see if they can get them on the straight and narrow. And the other part of it is there's research done with any kid that gets on campus during the early years. It typically translates into them hopefully going to college later on. And so that's the other side of it.
That's pretty awesome. You're also involved in the Team Impact program, which is very much, I wouldn't say it's only a New England thing, but I know a lot of New England schools that are involved with it. You guys drafted a 6-year-old. Is it John Dell? Is that how?
It's John Dell, yep. We actually sent him a message tonight. He just he was in the hospital over the weekend. And just got out today, and we happened to have a gathering of our guys today, and we I don't know how the guys did it, but they do it, and they made a little video and, sent it to John Dell, and he's a really cute kid, and he's been to a couple of games, and anytime we can get together with him, it really gives him a lift, and my guys have embraced that as well. Well,
yeah, the note I have here says that your program has been matched the most in the Team Impact system of any institution in Division III. That says a lot of the giving back element of things that you have of your program. I mean, That's a lot of time outside of basketball, but it's also got to have some incredible impact on your players.
Well, it does, and it really. And there are a lot of schools that do a lot of things, David. We're not the only ones that do these kind of things.
Sure.
But Springfield has always been the kind of place that extends itself and works in the community, and in this case works with kids who've really got dealt a pretty tough hand, and so we've got a lot of programs in our athletics department that have gotten involved in the team impact, and I think we are one of the most prevalent of all the Division III schools with the most programs that have a team impact kid. We make a big deal out of it. We bring them in, we draft them. We got them a little warm-up suit that is just cute as can be, and it was a. I'm not saying it's a life changer for the kid, but it certainly is a day that he'll never forget.
Oh, certainly. I know the community obviously supports you with what you're doing because they're giving you money to run the reading program, and obviously team impact is a huge deal. What does this do to your student athletes? What's this? What do you see as the either direct or indirect effects of all of this amongst your players?
I just think it instills in them the need to serve humanity. We've got a philosophy at Springfield College that we try to follow, and this fits right in with it. And the city is very involved with it. I get letters from the mayor every year after we've done the program and gone into the schools, a personal letter. I mean, it's just an important thing, and you know how it is with anytime you influence young kids, and especially as it pertains to reading, and it's harder now than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Because kids are so ingrained in looking at a screen, and
yep.
they don't read anymore. They just don't, and even college kids don't read as much as we would like them to. So it's still important, and they need to know how to read the newspaper and learn things from reading. So if we can instill some of that in these young kids, it's great, and the community really has always bought into that.
Let's talk about your team. I'm going to circle back on some of the NABC stuff in a moment and finish there. But let's talk about the team. You're led by many consider one of the best guards in New England in Jake Ross, 23.8 points a game. He also hauls in nearly 10 rebounds a game while handing out almost 4 assists a game. He obviously is the bread and butter, as it were, even the glue, kind of like the Nate Axelrod at Ohio Wesleyan. But tell me about the rest of this. We'll talk about Ross in a minute, but tell me about Heath Post and Andy McNulty and Brandon Eccles and the rest of the squad and how they feed off of the work Ross is doing.
Well, I think it's kind of a 50-50 in that they gain the benefit of Jake Ross being a focus of teams we play against. They have to try to stop him. If they feel they can stop Jake Ross, they can stop Springfield. And so the other guys benefit from that. But at the same time, it's one of the reasons it makes Jake such a tough matchup is he's really, really good at finding people that are open because of what teams do to try to take advantage of stopping him. So anytime there's a double up, he had 6 assists the other night, and he scored a lot of points, but the 6 assists are what really, makes us tick.
Mm-hmm.
He's a great rebounder, and you can't coach that. That's just effort and intensity on his part in that facet of the game. So Andy and Andy's a guard, and we've actually moved him more to a wing than a point guard with Jake handling the ball more. Brandon Eccles is a post player inside. Heath Post is a sophomore also like Jake and has a different skill set, very much able to attack the rim and a pretty good athlete. He needs to get a little stronger, and he's going to be really he's going to be something to reckon with. And then we've got guys coming off the bench that have done a nice job. We brought in a kid named Cam Earl, who's a really nice shooter. So if teams try to collapse on us, or if they were to try to zone us or play a Mongol defense with a couple of shooters like Andy and Cam and Trey Witter, it's a tough matchup. I think we're really getting better and better every day, and that's been fun to watch too.
This is a squad that started hot. You guys got off to a 4-0 start, then hit a bit of a skids between Trinity Williams, Amherst. Then you went down to see your buddy in Texas. I have a feeling Pat Cunningham's never going to get a call back from you ever again. And then you've at least won 3 of the last 4 here. It's been a tale of kind of ups and downs. How hard is it to keep the guys kind of heads in it when you're going through not only the highs but also the lows?
Well, I think a lot of it's scheduling, Dave. If you look at the not only the quality of the teams we're playing, and they are outstanding teams we're playing, but also when we played them. We teed it up with Trinity on a Thursday, went to Williams on a Saturday, got Amherst on a Tuesday, and then got on a plane to go to Texas and play Friday, Saturday that week. And it was a tough little run, and we really didn't catch our breath from that. And then when we came back and we had a little bit of a break, we played extremely well in our tournament, and were able to play a great game, second half especially against Wesleyan the other night. Great win for us.
Yeah, that Wesleyan game was a terrific notch, 72-67 over them. I think that was their first loss of the season. Quickly can make you forget what you went through in December. Of course, Babson, unfortunately, was a loss, but you got back up and scored 98 points against Wheaton. The NEWMAC feels wide open. That's because Babson obviously lost a lot from last year's championship team, but MIT is playing well. Coast Guard had them on the ropes. What's your take on the NEWMAC, and do you think you guys can kind of play a significant role in the conference this season?
I do. I will say that the NEWMAC, and not any different than a lot of conferences, but I've always felt that we've got 8 really good coaches in the conference.
Yeah.
Some of the places we go are difficult and made so by the quality of the teams and the fans and the whole environment. It's the league, maybe more so than ever recently, at least, is going to be more competitive from top to bottom than it has been in the last few years. And Babson, we played them, and they got us the other night up at their place, and they're still very good. Yes, they did lose a few players, but they still got a few, I can tell you. MIT is excellent. We were able to play a very good game against Wheaton yesterday, and they came in at 9-2. We played well. I would have to say that I don't think they played as well as they had been. They're going to beat some people, and so we need to strap it on. And you talk about forgetting what went on in the schedule. One of the reasons we play the schedule we do is so that we've been through just about as tough a situation as we can be in going into the conference schedule, and we hope that that's going to help us during the course of a real grind through the conference schedule.
You have a heck of a schedule this season, especially just on the NESCAC side. Trinity, who's looking very good this season. Williams and Amherst. Amherst maybe not as the behemoth it used to be, but still, Dave Hickson. It's a well-coached squad. And Wesleyan, right. And then conference play. We'll see what Southwestern and Trinity comes about. We don't know them as well, but certainly a tough schedule. This last question about the team, it feels like it's a team in transition. You've got the seniors in the Andy McNultys and the Brandon Eccles, who have certainly been there and had some incredible moments in their careers, but you also have the sophomore and Jake Ross. Those guys leave. It becomes really Jake's team and everybody who's with him. Is this kind of a transitional kind of period in time here for the program?
That's pretty normal, Dave. I mean,
sure.
These are 2 sophomores with Jake and Heath, a junior with Cam Earl, 2 seniors who have a huge impact with us, with Andy. And, we said it the other day, we played a home game, and they've only got 5 home games left in their career, not counting playoffs if we're so fortunate to be in them. It goes quick. It comes quick, and it goes quick.
Yeah.
And I think that it hit them that the desperation of we need to get, this is it, man. We got to go. And so if Andy and Brandon react to that positively, that's good. Jake and Heath are sophomores and can carry the program for a couple of years, and we're going to add some people to it.
Well, I look forward to seeing how this all plays out. And the NEWMAC is one of the more exciting conferences to watch on any given night, so we look forward to seeing some games. And I promise I am getting up to your neck of the woods sometime to see games in person. I've got to figure out the way to do it. I might even just blow off a weekend this year and head up there.
Well, you'd be welcome anytime.
I appreciate that. Let's slide back to the NABC. You're on the NABC committee. Your first vice president or some title, but you've been involved with the NABC, as long as I've known, but obviously since the 90s, at the very least, with the academic committee that you were on. How much has changed, not only with college basketball, but the NABC in the time that you've been involved?
No, it's changed a ton. I actually spent a lot of years on the academics committee, and as you mentioned, Fran Fraschilla was the chair of it for a time when we started the reading program. I took his place as chair for a few years, and then I got on the board. And I don't even know when it was. I think it was in the early 2003 or 4. So I've moved up in the each year you move up on it, and so next year I will be the president, which is humbling, I can tell you. It's changed in ways that are somewhat outside of the board of directors of the NABC, and that there's been a much better communication and stronger feeling going on between the NABC and the NCAA over the last, I would say, 15, 20 years. A lot of that has to do with Jim Haney and the work he's done, and also the board, too, and the way that the members of the board interact with the NCAA selection committee, which is such a powerful group. And the other thing that's happening now, Dave, as I'm sure you're aware, and it doesn't impact us in Division III, but it impacts basketball, and everybody in that room has the game foremost in their mind. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with recruiting and summer and money and agents and sneaker companies. The whole thing it's a huge topic in our group, and that discussion is led by the likes of Phil Martelli, Tom Izzo, John Calipari. I mean, Bill Self's the president now. I'm going to take his place. I can tell you I won't have a whole lot of input in that conversation because that's not my place. But it's just a very crucial time for college basketball right now.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was transitioning. Obviously, the headlines that started the season with the sneaker situation and what's going on, and a lot of people who feel that this is just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg, that there's more to this story when it eventually comes out. A lot of people don't think it's a D3 thing. We hope it's not a D3 thing. But you're still a coach. You're still a college coach. What is that, for lack of a better description, scandal done for you as a coach and the coaching community and for the NABC?
Well, I think I'm in a profession, Dave. Yeah. It's what we are and what we do, and we deal with young people, and our mission is to see to it that we guide them in a positive direction. And the guys that are on that board are trying to do as much as they are able, still doing their own jobs, but to see to it that the saying, the guardians of the game, is that truly is what is going on in that room. And there's tremendous cooperation and communication. There's a new commission now that includes coaches, John Thompson III and Phil Martelli, and I'll probably miss somebody. Bill Self is in there too. Them with athletic directors, commissioners, all D1 guys that are going to create an environment that's positive and doing the right thing for young people. And the one and done rule comes to mind as well. I mean, that's a big deal, and that may change. So these aren't things that necessarily impact a Division III basketball coach, but a Division III basketball coach is a member of a profession, and our reputation is like any other in how we conduct ourselves.
Well, and what they do affects you as a coach in the sense of your reputation in general. If people think of college basketball coaches, everybody's grouped in, rightly or wrongly, to what's going on. And so you want to obviously represent the best way possible, or at least make sure that the message is clean.
Absolutely.
Charlie, I'm blown away by one thing. I've known you for a number of years, and your time and your commitment to us has been invaluable. You seem like somebody who just can't stop giving back. Your program with the reading program, your team with the Team Impact program, the amount of time you've spent with the NABC, whether officially on the roster or not on the roster, is insane. The fact you'll become, I believe, the second Division III president next year, the academic, I can go through a list and we won't have enough time on the show. You always are giving back. You are always giving time of yourself to something else, whether it be your team for starters or it's all these other projects. A, where do you find the time, sir? And B, what is the driving force behind all that?
Well, I can tell you that I've been very fortunate to learn that I better surround myself by people smarter than I am, and I do.
Don't we all?
One of those would be a Pat Cunningham, and I'm going to wait a couple of weeks, and then I will call him back, even though he kicked us down there. We've got a group at our level, and a lot of it, I chaired the Division III committee and was in amongst an unbelievable group of guys that sacrificed time to do the right thing in the running of the Division III tournament. All those guys and all those committees put in an incredible amount of time and effort and focus. I like it. I happen to, and like I said, I surround myself with people that get things done. They all do more than I do. So I've just been fortunate, and I like the administrative side of some things, and so I get involved. That's all. And I would, if there's one thing I would like to see before my time is up, is to do as much as I can to see to it that younger coaches getting into the profession do jump into these kind of things and spend a little time and serve the game the way the guys that I've been associated with have, that are, we're winding down a little bit. I'm hopeful that we can do as much as possible to get young people entering the profession and working their way through it to be involved as much as possible.
Certainly a noble cause. It's great to see the young ranks come through as well. I'll leave you with this. We head to Salem for possibly the last time in March. This tournament will move on to Fort Wayne for 4 years. We don't know the future after that. Salem obviously has hosted a number, well over 20 Division III championships, and I know it's been a special place for the NABC. It's where you started the All-Star game, and I know they've been very welcoming of you and anywhere from 30 to 60 coaches on championship weekend. What's it mean this year to go back to Salem, and what are your thoughts on what could be the finale?
It's a good one. I think it's normal. Things do change, and I wouldn't want to stand in the way of any of that. We will miss many of the things that Salem stands for, not the least of which is Kerry Harvey Cutter, who's given us everything over the years, at least the time I've been involved in it. His leadership has been incredible, and his assistance in making some of the programs that we try to do work. This will be the last year there, at least that we know, and like I said, and the Fort Wayne people have really, literally jumped in. They'll probably, I'm sure they're going to be in Salem. I've had some conversations with them. We're looking ahead to that a little bit as we, this year going into it and moving in that direction. Yes, the year after next. So this will be not same old, but we'll be going back to Salem and doing the same things we've been doing over the last few years, and then we've got to make a lot of adjustments. But these things happen, and we'll land on our feet and we'll keep moving.
Sure. I highly suspect you would, but I certainly know that it's been a special place. Looking forward to seeing what Fort Wayne brings to the table. Great to hear they've stepped up to and contacted everybody. That's wonderful to hear. Looking forward to that, and obviously looking forward to our final year in Salem. Charlie, I really appreciate the time, as always, and I love chatting with you when we are at the championship weekend. As always, we give the coach the final word. Sir, any final thoughts you want to share with those tuning in?
No, Dave, just grateful for the things you do and the contributions you make with bringing our game, our Division III great game, to more and more of the public, and your show, bringing guys on and hearing how the relations they have with their kids and the things they do. And, I noticed, I got your email the other day, by the way, and I've got some ideas, but, the more we can get young people involved and recognize the great service endeavors that all of our guys, that so many of our people are involved in, the better we like it. And then your involvement in that has been a tremendous service to our game as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. As I've always said, the NABC has been a huge supporter of ours, and I can't thank you guys enough either. So it's my way of trying to do just a little bit to give back, as it were. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of the season if you can. Look forward to seeing you in Salem, and we'll talk soon, I'm sure.
Sounds good, Dave. Take care. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Charlie Brock joining us from Springfield College team is 7-6, maybe a little bit deceiving there. Let's see what happens when they get into NUMAC play a little bit deeper. They're probably going to be right in the thick of it, I highly suspect. Remember, by the way, right around the corner from the Basketball Hall of Fame is where you can find the Pride playing basketball. So if you want to make a trip of it, I'm told Springfield's worth doing. I will make a trip of it, I promise you, someday soon. But thanks to Charlie Brock joining us on, appropriately enough, City of Salem, Hoopsville hotline. Going to take a break. We're a little bit behind schedule. Ha! Where have you heard that before on this show, right? We're going to come back, and we're going to shoot down in the southwestern corner, well past Roanoke of Virginia, and we'll talk to Emory and Henry. No, not Emory. Emory and Henry. We'll talk to the Wasps men's basketball program. David Wilson, former Division III player. What has he got for a squad down there? Could they be one of those new top 25 teams you may see on the top 25 come Monday? You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios. Back with more after this.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
Something I discovered in myself is that if I have a goal, I can accomplish it.
It's a well-rounded experience.
At a Division III school, you primarily a student athlete, so the school is really shaped around you developing yourself as a complete individual.
It helps a lot that you have a family with your team that can guide you.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he shoulda had that's. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you are enjoying the show. I feel like I'm a broken record coming out of breaks. We're going to have to work on that. Of course, you're at the WBCA NABC studios. And again, thanks to the NABC for the previous segment, the NABC Coaches Corner with Charlie Brock. Got a couple of great ideas coming up down the road that we will take advantage of as well. It's a great segment. On Thursdays at the WBCA, we kind of same segment, talking to coaches about what they're doing off the court. And on Sundays, it's the NABC. Quick note, we'll mention it at the end of the show, too. Next Sunday, Hoopsville will not air. We are pushing it probably to Monday afternoon. We will be with the Centennial Conference at the Palestra, where they're playing 5 games. We'll talk more about that at the end of the show, and, of course, on Thursday's show as well. We'll maybe do some quick little Hoopsville hits while we're out there between games, but the whole show will move to next Monday. So the 15th instead of the 14th. All right, so I mentioned Emory and Henry. This is a squad that was on my radar for a couple of weeks. Don't really know what to make of, to be blunt. We're on my top 25. Didn't know what to make of. 12-1. They had just come off a loss to Worcester, or I probably would have voted for them last week. It was one of those where I didn't quite know what to make of it because Worcester, let's be honest, isn't the Worcester we're all used to. They wouldn't have made the NCAA tournament last year had they not won the automatic bid. Now, granted, Worcester's 10-3, which is kind of the weird thing. Their losses came in a 4-game stretch against St. John Fisher, Denison, and Wabash. So even I have to kind of reevaluate my opinion of Worcester because they also just beat Ohio Wesleyan. So, but back to Emory and Henry, 12-1. They were 20-8 last season. Back in 14-15, they were 5-21. Before that, 4-22. That's where this team has come from. They're coached by an alum of Division III, Hampton-Sydney, class of 04. They're located in the southwestern corner of Virginia, literally in the corner. We don't know much about them, but clearly they're having a tremendous season. And did you see what they did over the week? Well, they beat Guilford, which had been the ODAC pick and is not having as great a season as everyone thought as a top 25 voter. I thought they'd be great. They're 6-7. And then they beat Virginia Wesleyan, which has always been the class of division of the ODAC. So what do we make of Emory and Henry? As you know, if you have watched this show, I get my answers from the coaches. So we go to the Hoopsville hotline, sponsored by the City of Salem, and joining us there is David Wilson, head coach of the Wasps. And, Coach, thanks for taking the time, and congratulations on what has been a tremendous first half of the season.
Well, thanks, Dave. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. I appreciate you taking the time. We should point out, you and I actually chatted earlier in the week, unbeknownst of this interview, about where you guys stood on the national landscape of things. And we both kind of admitted, and you said it yourself, what you're about to go through is going to be the best barometer of what you really are. Virginia Wesleyan, who you just got past, you'll have to take on Roanoke, granted at home, which is an advantage. Then you're on the road at your alma mater, Hampden-Sydney, before facing Lynchburg and Randolph-Macon. That's how you, quote-unquote, start the ODAC play. Obviously, you've played 2 ODAC games already. But 12-1, this program hasn't been 12-1 since ever?
Well, back in the late 80s and early 90s, there were some great teams that came out of here. And there was a legendary coach here named Bob Johnson.
Yeah, I think we know about him.
Yeah. They produced, I believe it was 5 NCAA tournament teams. They went to 2 Sweet 16s. And so the program definitely has a history that we're all proud of. But in the recent history, we've struggled a little bit, and it certainly has been special just to see things improve each year and to be a part of that process.
Yeah, it certainly is an incredible start. And again, 4-21, 4-22 back in 2012, 13, 13, 14. That's where this program has come from. 5-21 the next season, then a jump to 16-12 2 years ago. 20-8 last season, 12-4 in the conference. It felt like last year you kind of got lost in what was a fascinating Randolph-Macon Guilford race and a what the heck happened to Lynchburg Virginia Wesleyan storyline. You literally got sandwiched in between that and kind of flew under the radar.
Yeah, I thought what we did last year that was impressive to me was we finished really strong.
Yeah, you won 9 in a row.
Yeah, I think early in the conference schedule, we were probably kind of in the middle of the league, and then our guys just put together a great run down the stretch. We won 9 games leading into the ODAC championship game against Guilford, and I think that stretch put us in the mix a little bit. But we were kind of latecomers, so maybe that's why we weren't quite as noticeable to certain people.
Yeah, you lost 4 of 6 earlier in the season. You lost 3 of 5 in the middle of January, and I think a lot of people went, okay, it's the ODAC play. We're focused by Randolph-Macon. We're focused on Guilford. Again, what's going on with Lynchburg and Virginia Wesleyan? And you guys kind of ended up there. You ended up in the championship game. I remember watching a lot of the game, preparing for our special that night, and you knocking on the door on getting into the NCAA tournament with that. Lost by 10, yes. But it is any of that season or that particular loss and missing out on any postseason play, has that spurred on this team? or has this been completely focused on this year?
I think it's not something that I talk about a ton with our guys. To me, each year is a new year. But I definitely think if you were to talk to our players, particularly the guys, obviously, that return from that team, they would say that it's definitely a very motivating factor for them. When you get that close and, you can taste it a little bit, but you don't have the opportunity to move forward into the NCAA tournament, or you don't get a chance to cut those nets down in Salem, but you're that close. I think it's definitely something that lights a fire for you going into the next year. So I definitely think we have some guys that are motivated by that, and I'm sure that's a good thing for us.
Sorry, I hit mute on my mic. Let's talk about this season. You start off with wins over Suwannee, Maryville. You also had a win over Ferrum, a win over in overtime against Shenandoah, who seems like, under a new coach, to be a sneaky good team. Mm-hmm. You beat Eastern Mennonite by 20. Maybe you're the reason that Coach Kirby decided he's hanging up his clipboard. And then you transitioned into the holiday season, and you got a win over Transylvania, who's sneaky good this year. I think Brian Lane would tell you he'd love to be better, but they're 10-3. You beat North Park, granted, a team who doesn't have their best player and isn't as good as people thought, but still, solid win. Then you get a win over Alma and then the loss to Worcester. That stretch right there, tell me what that was. You had 4 games before and after Christmas. What was the focus going into that? And was 3-1 acceptable, or did you really want to come out of that 4-0?
Well, we would love to have come out of that 4-0, and I think we had a really good chance to come out of it 4-0. That game at Worcester was a great game. I think it was a 2-point game with a minute and a half to go, and they, to their credit, they made some plays and we didn't. And but I'll tell you why I scheduled it to start. We're trying to get our schedule to a point where we have some really competitive non-regional games. And I want to do that for a number of reasons. Obviously, my hope is that it would help to improve our resume, if we are in the mix for an NCAA tournament selection. But the bigger reason I scheduled that way is because I want our team to get better. And when you go to Transylvania and you play against that team, that's very well coached and very talented on their court, and you play against a very well coached North Park team, and then you go to a place like Worcester. I think they've won a few games over the years under Coach Moore. They've been pretty solid over the years, So those things expose us to a level of competition that I expected to really help us take steps. And even though we lost that Worcester game, boy, did it help us get better. The lessons we learned going down the stretch, I felt like I told the guys it had a lot of similarities to an NCAA tournament game. Obviously, the environment is a little more electric. Not that they didn't have a good crowd, but obviously for an NCAA tournament game, it's electric. But just the level of competition and the quality of play, I thought will really help us moving forward, and will also bode well for us as we get to the postseason.
Oh, absolutely. And again, as those teams continue to have good seasons, it looks better and better for you guys as well. Of course, you've got Roanoke coming up again at home, which I think is a nice advantage. Then you're on the road at your alma mater, Hampden-Sydney, before coming back home against Lynchburg and Randolph-Macon. As you and I discussed, this is a big 5-game stretch here in ODAC play. And if anybody's not familiar, it's the non-double round robin, a little offset ODAC model. How important is this stretch for not only maybe, and we'll talk about in a minute, national implications and conversations, but for you guys as a squad, for the goals you're trying to hit this season?
Yeah, well, it's not helping my sleep.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Last week, going into a game against Guilford and then Virginia Wesleyan and then all those other ones you mentioned, did not help me get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
But it's important. I definitely think if you're looking at it from an NCAA tournament perspective and those types of things, it's definitely got a lot of significance to it. But that's just not something we focus on as a team, and it's not something that I spend any time talking about with our guys. We talk about being a team on a mission, and the number one mission we have is just getting better every day. And so when we play these types of teams, it stresses us in a lot of areas, both offensively and defensively, and it makes us better. And, we know we have to go in very well prepared. We have a lot of respect for each game we have coming up, and certainly Roanoke is going to be a really tough one for us. But, that's kind of how we look at it, is we just look at each day, and we want to take advantage of opportunities to improve and to prepare each day and give our best effort each game. So that's our conversation as a team, and I'm sure I know that if you were to step outside of that and look at it from an NCAA tournament perspective or maybe a ranking perspective, it certainly does have a lot of significance.
Let's talk about this team led by senior John Scheller, I apologize.
It's actually Sheeler.
Sheeler.
And
you know what? We're just 0 for 3. Why don't we just keep on rolling? 16 and a half points a game. And he's pretty much your go-to threat. 52% on the floor, 43% from beyond the arc, 87% free throw shooter. Then you have a sophomore in Colin Molden, nearly 16 points a game himself, 5 assists a game with a 2.5 assist to turnover ratio and 2 steals. He's showing off. Chase Branscombe, a senior, also 14 and a half points a game. Daniel Spencer, sophomore, 13 points a game. Theron?
It's Theron Suggs.
It is Theron. Theron Suggs, a freshman.
We've heard about every variety of
I figured,
how you pronounce that word.
Yeah,
it's Theron Suggs. Yeah.
Theron Suggs, 10 points a game. And then Alec Wynn, a junior, 8.9 points a game. Wynn not joining the double-digit party. 5 guys in double digits. Branscombe, the second leading rebounder at 8.5. Wynn actually at 10 rebounds a game. That's 6 really good guys statistically for a team averaging 87.5 points a game. You got a lot of options.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that makes us really good offensively, particularly, is just we have balance. That was something that we took a lot of pride in last year, and I think it's still a really big strength of ours this year. The other thing is you read down that list, we have a really good mix of veterans and newcomers.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that excites me about this team is just our upside. I look at the first 13 games, and we've done a lot of good things, but I think we're still gelling. And, I look at the progress we've made since November. If we can continue that trend and we can continue to focus on getting better, I think we could be really, really good going down the stretch. So it's exciting to me.
Well, you do have a nice mix, and that's the other thing I was going to stick on there. How much has recruiting changed now that this program's kind of turned around and entered the conversation? I kind of see it here in some of the talent you got in underclassmen, but it's got to be having some kind of impact.
Yeah, no, it does. The important thing to me in recruiting anywhere I've been, whether it's Elon, Furman, William & Mary, or here, is just recruiting the right fit. And so when I was an assistant, I wanted to recruit somebody that was going to fit my head coach well, but also fit the program and the school. And that's very important to me as a head coach here, is that we find guys that are going to be good fits, not just in our program, but also on our campus. Mm-hmm. And I think when you do that, you give yourself a better chance to have good retention, and your kids are going to thrive. And so certainly I think our success has opened the eyes of people in the recruiting trail a little bit more. But at the same time, we're still looking for the same type of thing. We want to find kids that are going to be academically motivated. We want to find kids that are going to be great teammates, and they're going to have a good work ethic. And obviously that are going to have the talent to compete both in the ODAC and on a national level. And,
sure.
And so it's stayed the same in a lot of ways, but it's probably helped us a little bit.
Let's talk about this conference race. I think you and I discussed this a little bit. Conference feels like it took a step back nationally, and I think it's because the top of the conference hasn't been as stellar as you've certainly known, having played in the conference at Hampton-Sydney, or as what we've gotten used to. But the middle is still really competitive, and if anything, the conference maybe is deeper than it used to be. How important is it to stay as relatively unscathed as possible through conference play before getting to the gauntlet that is the conference tournament?
Oh, and you've already addressed it a little bit, but when I was playing, I'm not going to say when because it's getting to be a long time ago. But
it's on our website if anybody wants to find it.
Shucks. But, there was probably 3 teams that were really good. I mean, there was one year that we played Randolph-Macon at their place, and I think we were maybe we were number 1 or they were number 2. Or it was the other way around, but we were the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country. And then at that time, Virginia Wesleyan, Coach Macedo was starting to move them up into the top. That was kind of right before they had some really big runs in the NCAA tournament. Coach Palumbo was just getting Guilford up. But there was, since then, there's been so many programs like Lynchburg and Eastern Mennonite and Washington and Lee. Randolph wasn't even in the conference at that time. And obviously, Coach Nunley, led them to some great success pretty recently. And so there's just been, the bottom of the league has just come up. And so I think the difference in the ODAC now compared to maybe you go back 10 years ago is that it's so much stronger in the middle. And that's what makes this, that's why I'm not sleeping right now. Because I'm looking at 6 games that are just all going to be dogfights.
Yeah.
And when I was at Hampton-Sydney, you wouldn't have, Coach Saver, we never would have taken a day off because we knew he would have had us practicing at 5 a.m. the next day. But we kind of knew that there was a lot of games where, if we just showed up and played pretty well, we'd be all right, and you just can't do that now.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's the difference in the ODAC. It's still a great league. Maybe we don't have some of the teams in I think when I was playing, there were 2 or 3 teams in the top 25 typically, and that's not something that we have going on right now. But I still think we have some really good teams towards the top. But you're right, it's just it's a wash. It's a dogfight in the middle.
So let me ask you this. I've asked this of Guy Rancourt of Lycoming recently. I've asked this of others. I'm a top 25 voter, as everybody knows. I'm not voting necessarily right now for the Wasps. That said, I've got my top 25 information in front of me, and there are a number of teams that have given me plenty of opportunities to throw anybody else I want into the top 25. I've got room. If you were to make a pitch, and that's not something we ever have, and I don't want to take it that way, but if you were to try and convince me why you may be a top 25 team, what kind of point would you raise?
Well, first of all, I couldn't make an argument because that would be pretty insincere because I don't have as good of a grasp of the national landscape of Division III.
Well, then let's rephrase the question because you raise a good point. Let's rephrase the question. What makes you a team that we should be considering on a national scale? What's so special about your squad this year?
Yeah, and how about I'll just tell you what I like about our team.
Perfect.
I think, first of all, I'm proud of how we started. I think we've played a tough schedule, and part of the reason it's a tough schedule is 3 out of our 13 games have been home games. The other 10 have been on the road, and so I'm proud of how our players have not only handled some good opponents, but we've done it on the road. And all the things that you deal with in terms of the adversity you typically face on the road, and it's made us a better team.
Mm.
But we've been successful playing a lot of road games. And I think some of our wins are quality wins. I mean, I think winning at Transylvania, it's a well-coached team with good talent. That's a great win. I think beating Maryville is a great win. Coach Lambert's got a good team this year. They're 8-3 right now, I believe, and beating Virginia Wesleyan and winning at Guilford. I think those are really quality wins. I think our loss is to a very good team. Worcester is not only well coached, but they've got really good talent, and they've got a guard. I think his name is Spencer Williams.
Yeah.
Played really well against us. I think our schedule has been solid, and I'm proud of how we've handled that. But I think the biggest thing for me is that I'm just excited about how good we could be. And I mentioned just the mix of young guys on our team with some veterans. I think we're still learning to play together. I think we're still learning our system. We have to get so much better defensively. And when I look at the areas that we need to get better, it excites me because I think if we improve in those areas, we're going to be really tough. And one thing that has been a hallmark of our program the last 4 years is that all of our teams have played their best basketball at the end of the year. Last year we went on a 9-game win streak into the ODAC finals. The year before that, we had a great run to the ODAC semifinals. And even those 2 years you mentioned where it was harder to find a win, we still were playing our best basketball at the end of the year, which I was really proud of because those teams went through a whole lot of adversity and a lot of losing, and they stayed with it and got better. So I would say if this team continues to buy into that mentality, we can be really good by the end of the season. And I think that's a worthwhile note for anybody considering the loss.
Well, there you go. Appreciate you taking the time to break that down for us, and we'll see what the top 25 voters do at least this week. Like I said, there's plenty of options. Everybody can't win. Good luck the rest of the way. It's certainly going to be fascinating in the next 4, but beyond that as well. As always, we give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
That's nice of you. I just say thank you. I'm sure this is something you hear a lot, but as a former player and as a current coach, I think Division III basketball is very unique, but there's a lot of great stories to tell out of this level of college basketball, and we don't get the same recognition and exposure that Division I gets. But when there's a platform like D3 Hoops, I think it adds a lot of value to the country for people to hear about a lot of great teams, great players, great coaches, et cetera. And so I'm grateful to have the opportunity to talk about something I'm very passionate about, and that's Emory Henry College, and that's our team. And so I'm appreciative that you'd have me on the show, and appreciate what you guys do.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time. And we can't do this show without coaches like yourself willing to sacrifice some of their time to come on and talk about their squads or their regions or their conferences, so I appreciate it as well. Good luck the rest of the way, as we mentioned, and look forward to talking to you down the road.
Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely. David Wilson joining us on the City of Salem Hoopsville Hotline. Again, their squad has Roanoke at home on Tuesday. Then they'll be on the road at Hampden-Sydney on, of course, which is his alma mater. I can't remember. It's the 13th. I don't remember what day of the week that is. I apologize. I think it's Saturday. And then they're at home against Lynchburg and Randolph-Macon. That's the next stretch. That's a real test for them. Would not be surprised if they don't leap into the top 25 if they're not getting significant amount of votes come this coming vote, Monday. But I'm not sure. Where do they may stand with other voters? That's what's coming up next. Our new Sunday segment, the Top 25 conversation with no real name, with Ryan Scott, our Around the Nation columnist. He'll join me here in a little bit, and we'll talk about that, and I'll answer some of your questions. That's all ahead as we go into overtime and try and wrap this show up as succinctly as we can. If you're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC studios, back with more after this.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
My name.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're, I got to find something new. Hope you're enjoying the show. We're going to have to find something new with that, or just put it on our cool little new system here where we can get applause and stuff like that and cool little things. If you got questions for us, last chance to get them in for this show. I got a couple emails I do plan on answering at the end here. Among other things, you can email us, hoopsville at d3hoops.com. You can tweet us at d3hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. We will get a graphic up there someday. I got some time finally this week where things slow down a little bit. I say that considering going into a crazy weekend next weekend, but we'll find some time to do things. Might have an ice storm tomorrow that will keep us in the house. That'll get me to do some stuff. You can also join us on Facebook Live, though I will warn you now with the next segment, due to the fact we are down a monitor, I may not be able to see some of the questions on Facebook Live and YouTube for this, so I apologize now. But we will try and answer questions we think are coming. New segment we debuted at the end of the first semester on Sunday nights. It's kind of the top 25 whip around, or as our good friend Ira Thor called it, the Great Scott segment. That's because Ryan Scott, our national contributor at d3hoops.com, is joining me, and we'll talk about top 25s, maybe some sleeper teams and whatnot. Again, with our production a little bit on wonky here, we hopefully will get this to work. I just realized a minor glitch because of the wackiness here. Bear with me. I got to fix something. The wackiness of losing a monitor also throws my system into disarray. So we have to fix that. But Ryan is with us, and he will join me as soon as I figure out which monitor I need to select to make sure we get him. So bear with me here, folks. Didn't see this coming because it doesn't usually happen. Actually, we can go to Ryan back and forth without... No, I can't do that either. So Ryan's our Around the Nation columnist. We should point out, by the way, we've had some great articles on D3 Hoops of late. If you haven't had a chance, go to our Around the Region article writers because they've been tremendous. Really impressed with some of the articles we've gotten. There's one on the Great Lakes. We're going to get that young man, I hope, on the marathons coming up in February and such. I definitely want you to go and check them out if you get the chance. Here we go. I'm finding the right button to press, and we finally found it. And we can change. It says I'm on. Yeah, this is ridiculous, folks. There we go. I found it at least for that. One down. Hold on. Just got to reframe it so that Ryan doesn't take up the whole screen and we don't see anything else. He is here, and he will join us. And he should be able to join us now. Ryan, there you are, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
How you doing, Dave?
I see you. Had our volume a little low there. I know you're battling a little bit of a cold, but I appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, no, I'm glad to do it. It's spent the last 3 hours working on my ballot, so I'm all ready to go.
You're lucky. You get to spend the time while I'm doing the show working on your ballot. I haven't done it yet, and this will be interesting. First and foremost, you and I, obviously, we talk a lot behind the scenes. This is getting crazy, Ryan. We are experiencing a number of losses in the top 25 and outside the top 25 on every single week. I don't think we've had a moment where things have just settled at any point in this season.
No, not at all. Usually as I do these ballots, I try at the beginning of the season to blow them up every week and not work off my previous ballot because I don't want, there's such a small sample size. I don't want that to cloud my judgment.
Sure.
But usually by this time of year, I'm working off the previous week because you can. Yeah. And you can't this year.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of saying it. And I do work off my previous ballot because I have certain thinkings of what that ballot is. But there's no wrong way and there's no right way. And I know that maybe some of my comments have sparked something on the top 25 boards. I haven't been there in a while. I noticed there were 4 pages, which hadn't happened in eons. I'll have to go back in there and see how many people think I'm wrong. But when you look at first off, I said at the beginning of the show, it's awesome that we have all these results because now it's fun. Every single night, we don't have games that we know how they're going to turn out. We tune in because now you're going to have to tune in. But as a top 25 voter, and obviously you're one of them, it's not like we have a pool of 30. It's not like we have a pool of 35. You could argue we've got a pool of 50 teams to try and argue into a top 25 ballot.
All right, I can give you my example. I kind of separate my ballot into 4 groups as I'm getting going. The top group being the ones I definitely want to vote for, and then the next group being the ones I'm willing to vote for with some reservation.
Sure.
And in most years, I have to take teams off the ones I want to vote for, right? I always have more than 25 on there. This year, at least this week, I only made it to 20.
Ooh.
So I have a group of 22 teams I don't really want to vote for, and I'm going to have to pick 5 of them. So that tells you where we're at.
Yeah, that kind of does. Anybody that, I don't want to say this in a negative way, but a team that really surprised you by their struggles this year so far?
I mean, there's a number of teams that we thought would be better. Ramapo was one. I thought that they would be very solid this year, and they're good. I mean, they're certainly a team I'm considering on the ballot. They're towards the bottom when I had them a top 5 to start the year. But they haven't done anything to stand out the way some of those top 10 teams have. So that's a little surprising. Hanover was pretty high up. I was a little skeptical about that, but they really, again, not a bad team, but they're not what we expected them to be.
Yeah.
Another one I was just thinking we might point out is Keene State. I really thought Keene State would be good. They lost a lot, but they're bringing a lot back. And again, they've had some good wins. I'd still have, it's a team that I haven't written off or anything, but it's not what I expected them to be either.
It's an interesting point of view. I didn't expect as much out of Keene State, but that's why we have 25 voters, all from different backgrounds and points of view. Without diving into who's your top 25 right now, because that's certainly not what we're trying to do with this segment, is there any team that you've marked as being one that you think deserves a little bit of attention that isn't? Maybe slipping under the radar. Maybe you could call them a sleeper to some degree.
Well, I mean, besides the Swarthmore, right, that everyone else is voting for but you, right? So
apparently. That's one of like 6 I'm not voting for.
Yeah. I have Skidmore higher than most people. I still think that's a really quality team. Maybe they haven't had the best schedule so far, but I think that one's pretty good. And then farther down, I've been looking at Adrian this week up in the MIAA. Wasn't sure what to expect out of that whole conference this year, but they've I've only got 2 losses, and at this point, only having 2 losses puts you in consideration for things.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And yeah, I saw you mention Adrian earlier, and I kind of took it back. I was like, wait, there's something going on I don't know about. I need to check them out myself, and luckily they're in this packet that I can check them out as well. A team like an Emory and Henry obviously has, we just had them on the show. They kind of jumped out, as it were, into things. How do you make? I mean, there's a lot of teams. There's I pointed out a few in the last blog. There was Lycoming. There's Juniata, there was Nebraska Wesleyan, there's Emory and Henry. There's a number of teams with these huge, gaudy records, but they're hard to gauge. Do you have a way that you're able to figure this out, or are you, for lack of a better term, shooting into the dark like I am?
What I decided to do this year is just wait till we see a real win.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the teams that 22 teams that I'm considering for those last 5 spots, I've got sitting all together, Emory and Henry, Platteville, and Franklin and Marshall, which are 3 one-loss teams that just haven't had great schedules. And, a lot of what those 4 pages on the message boards have been talking about is what do you do with these teams? How do you handle a team that doesn't really have a signature win yet, but has a good record? And it's hard, especially at this point of year when they haven't even played a lot of conference games yet, to know how they stack up.
And how hard is it for a team that you can't seem to let go, but, man, there's enough signs that tells you should have let them go. You should let them go sometime soon.
Last year I had trouble with that. This year not so much. Everybody's losing enough. If it feels like they're on a downward trajectory, I'm pulling the trigger sometimes a little too quick. I did that a little bit with Whitewater. They were real struggling at the beginning of the year, but they've had some good results the last couple. So,
yeah, the WIAC is going to be crazy. The CCIW always is crazy, but the WIAC this year is nuts. But the NCAC is going to be tough. The OAC is going to be tough. And we're even seeing signs that the NESCAC could be absolutely ridiculous this year. Williams beats Wesleyan. Wesleyan beats Middlebury.
Yeah, and Hamilton's in there too. They put a good hurting on Trinity, who's had some good results as well. You know, I mean, we're looking at a NESCAC where Amherst might be the 7th best team, which is weird.
Yeah, agreed, and very weird. But at the same time, we've seen a Wesleyan as a 7th seed go on to win. Anything is possible when it comes to the NESCAC. I don't want to keep you too long, but is there anything else on your mind when you look at the top 25, even on the women's side of things, on the landscape of D3 as we're, pretty much at the halfway point of the season here, that's caught your eye?
Well, I mean, just to briefly mention the women's side, the fact that there are ranked teams losing is unusual.
Tufts lost twice.
That just doesn't happen too often, where you're going to see 3 or 4 or 5 ranked teams on the women's side lose all in the same day, which is exciting because that means there's parity, there's teams coming up and challenging, and things are different. The other one is just some of the geography that we talk about, right? That the teams are still pretty regionalized, as much as maybe the Great Lakes and the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast can kind of get together. I've been looking at Sul Ross State down in Texas, which is isolated even for Texas.
Yes.
Out in the middle of nowhere. They've got a good record. They have 4 losses. 2 of them are to non-D3 teams. But, just their conference schedule is really big, and they don't have a lot of teams they can play. I mean, 2 of their non-conference games are conference opponents that they had to add at the beginning of the season. So, that's a team that I'd love to vote for, and I think they're good, but it's just hard to get context when you have so many people competing for that attention.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And Sul Ross State is most definitely in the middle of nowhere for being already in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah,
they are. Are they the ones that's out in the western part of the state? If I'm
yeah,
I mean, out by El Paso.
They're like 4 hours from anybody else in the conference.
Yeah,
even, so
I feel bad for them sometimes, but we're keep fine tuning this one and moving forward. Tech issues tonight caused me to not fine tune as much as we normally do, but I appreciate you coming on and kind of giving your insight on things, and I'm glad to hear you got some of your work done on the top 25. I might call you tomorrow and just have you fill out mine for me.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't mind doing that. That's no problem at all.
Ryan, thank you so much, sir. Take care, and we'll talk to you
sometime. I'm going to put Swarthmore number 1 if you give me your ballot. That's all.
What'd you say?
So I'm going to put Swarthmore number 1 if you give me your ballot. That's all.
Yeah, I don't have Swarthmore. I don't have Lycoming. I don't have Juniata. There's a lot of teams in the top 25 I don't have. It's really a weird year. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. And we'll talk soon. Any final thoughts?
Well, I was just going to say thank you for having this section because I've realized as we're sitting here that somehow I deleted Lycoming off my list of 100 or so teams, so I need to make sure I get them back on the right spot. So thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Yeah, this is what just make it more complicated for you later.
Oh, yeah.
All right, bud. Take care. We'll talk soon.
See you later. Thank you.
Ryan Scott joining us on the City of Salem Skype hotline. Appreciate him taking the time to do that. Fun to talk with him. We'll keep honing that schedule a little, that thing a little bit, and make it better as we move forward as well. All right, so I got a couple email questions, so let me get to those before we sign off for tonight. Well into overtime. I apologize, really, for tech issues, the biggest reason. So this person's has an interesting question. He says, "Listen, I might be biased, but I think it's a little in depth, but we'll kind of paraphrase a little bit of what he's asking." He says, on the D3 football side of the fence, there's also a discussion on teams that play easy non-conference schedules as a way of bettering their chances to make the NCAA tournament. And remember, on the football schedule, most schools only have maybe 1, if 2 games in non-conference to play. Some that's not the case, but for the majority, it certainly is. So there's not a lot of games in their schedule against non-conference. This fall, it seemed like the NCAA football committee rewarded teams who sought out tough non-conference competition. While there are many more games in Division III basketball, as we pointed out, and things might even out more, what are your thoughts? Does the SOS really help balance things out? If you go 11-0 with a super easy non-conference schedule, do you increase your tournament chances compared to other conference teams that play a tough non-conference schedule and end up 9-3 prior to the start of conference? He points out the WIAC, where a lot of teams had good starts to the season, but now have taken a couple of hits already. Or on the flip side of that, could a team who really schedules tough and then take some hits, maybe hurting themselves. Listen, scheduling, I've actually talked to a number of coaches recently. Scheduling is tough. I think we have found from the NCAA's point of view that they're not going to necessarily reward you for an easy schedule, and they're not going to necessarily punish you for a hard schedule. There's somewhere of a medium in between. In the sense of last year, we saw Oshkosh with a ridiculously hard schedule. Not get a lot of wins. Remember, they were below what we thought was the Mendoza line of 667 winning percentage. Get into the NCAA tournament. We can go back and forth, hem and haw until we're blue in the face about whether that was the right decision. I don't know. I still don't have an opinion on it. Yes, the data as we know it of the SOS and results versus regionally ranked opponents and all of that indicated that Oshkosh had a good argument, and if you're going to break the trend, they weren't a bad team to do it with. Was it the right decision? I don't know. What I do know is we know that if you go out there and schedule cupcakes in the non-conference schedule, you're not necessarily going to be rewarded by the NCAA, the committee that is. Yes, you might be in a really good conference that makes up for that, but you need results versus regionally ranked opponents. You need that data. You need the data to boost your SOS, to get into the conversation. You need to also do well in your conference. So, no, I have not seen teams who schedule really easy be rewarded for it. Now, there may be some of you screaming about the NESCAC. And we talk about the NESCAC in nauseum, about the fact that a lot of those teams have a ton of games to schedule. And by the way, I hear more and more coaches asking and wishing they played a double round robin or some kind of ODAC type model. Yes, the smart ones, knowingly or unknowingly, are playing the top of the average conferences and not the middle or bottom. As a result, they're also getting wins, which is important to this entire mix. So they're doing well by their SOS because the worst part of their SOS is not the part that's magnified the most. They're playing an opponent that's going to have a good win-loss percentage. In a bad conference, the bad conference part doesn't get dinged on the SOS as much. But those NESCAC teams are still winning, and they're still playing the top of those conferences. The Keene States of the world have shown that they can still do well in the NCAA tournament. The Morrisville States of a few years ago in the NABC, one of the worst conferences in Division III in terms of strength. They have proven that they can still go well. So the top of those conferences still aren't bad teams, and those schools go out and schedule them and usually win those games. Albertus Magnus has proven that. I mean, Cabrini has proven that. We can go through a lot of schools who have been at the top of average to below average conferences who've represented themselves well, and schools like the NESCAC go out there and schedule them because they get a good win-loss percentage against a bad conference, and the bad conference doesn't hurt them. There is too far in either direction. We saw Lancaster Bible a couple of years ago. If they don't go undefeated in the regular season, winning the conference automatic qualifier, they're out of the NCAA tournament, even if their first loss was the conference title game, because their SOS was so poor. They had one game of significance in the entire 27 games they played. And they won that, at least, but that was it. So, to answer the question, you cannot go out there and schedule easy. We have seen many teams get left at home scheduling easy. You don't necessarily have to go out there and schedule ridiculously hard because you may have the best SOS in the country, but if you're 17-12, 17-11, you're probably not making the NCAA tournament. Oshkosh was the exception. I don't think that's a pattern, if that makes any sense. So go ahead and schedule to the best of your abilities. His one point was he thought schools like Whitewater, River Falls, and Stevens Point may be at a disadvantage because they scheduled too hard and they've taken a bunch of losses. First off, Stevens Point, let's remove him from the conversation. I don't think Stevens Point's a team that's good enough that's going to be in an at-large scenario. I really don't. Yes, I know they're going to win some games in the WIAC, and that's not a surprise. They got a good defense. Bob Semling's always been a good defensive coach. They're going to be good. I just don't think they got the firepower for the entire season, especially as we get into the second round of the WIAC games, to stay in the mix. If you take too many losses in conferences, conversation's over anyway. So it becomes a balancing act between a coach who's going to go out there and try and win games in non-conference and prepare himself for conference play and even prepare himself for March while also getting through the conference. And that's a balancing act. And no, I don't think scheduling easy has had its benefits to get in the NCAA tournament. We just haven't seen it. And no, I don't think scheduling it ridiculously difficult has had its advantages, and I don't think it's necessarily prepared. I think it's somewhere in the middle. And yes, as a result, the SOS absolutely has an impact and does help balance things out. Maybe too far. There are some that would argue that the SOS has too much influence and that win-loss has been ignored for conferences like the ASC and elsewhere where they can't get a lot of out-of-conference games against good quality opponents. And that's certainly another argument and another conversation to be had. But I think the SOS does do its due diligence in our sport in helping determine who the best teams are to be selected in the NCAA tournament. And no, easy schedules don't help. Maybe football went too far this year. I was following that too. Maybe football went too far this year in the other direction of trying to reward schools for SOSs, or tough schedules despite having a few extra losses. That was their decision. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it, but they're also only selecting about 5 at-large teams. We're selecting 19. By the time, or I think that's the number, by the time we get down to those last 5, 6, even 10, it's such in the nitty-gritty that all those numbers help make us a decision. And no team that went out there and just cupcaked it is going to get rewarded for that. You're not. You still have to win, but you can't be winning against the bottom of conferences. Plain and simple. If your SOS isn't good enough to be in the conversation, you're not going to be part of the conversation. I hope that answered that question. It's a little bit incomplex. I'll try and maybe write that individual back to be a little bit better in that. I said, I'm starting to think about the Ramapo situation. Might have been a little more than 2 losses against 2 good teams in Vegas. Your thoughts? You know what? I don't know about Ramapo yet. I will say Bonnicum's not the same player as last year or the year before for whatever reason. I've heard some things behind the scenes that might attribute to why he's not playing like we thought he would be playing. He's still good, don't get me wrong. But I was talking to a coach, and he and I had a fascinating point of view that we both agreed on. I think Ramapo gets out of what works or they switch out too much of what they're doing and aren't consistent. So you might see them come down the court with pace 5 or 6 times and go to the guys who've got a little bit of that extra step, got a little bit of pace. I should call up the guys' names, but I don't have them in front of me. And drive to the basket, and that's what they do 5 or 6 times down the court, maybe 7 or 8. Hit baskets, don't hit back, doesn't matter. That's what they do. And then all of a sudden they come down the court and they switch it up. Now they're trying to get it to Bonnicum, and they're trying to set it up with him either at a high post, even a low post, or at a wing, trying to get him the ball, get him some touches. But now they just kind of changed what they were doing. They're not doing that kind of speed game, as it were. And suddenly it's not as easy for them to dive into things. And it's caught they're not succeeding there now. And things have slowed down on them, and they're kind of in no man's land, if that makes any sense. And then they switch out of that a couple rounds later, and now they're back into the quick step guys and trying to do something in a particular way. And then they go back to the Bonica. They're switching in and out. I don't know necessarily if that's Chuck McBreen's decision or just a squad team. But, again, Christopher Mosley and Patrick Peterson and Nick Stanek and Josh Ford, these are the guys who are with Bonnicum on this team, along with James Long and some other guys. But, Mosley comes down. He's a little bit quicker on the pace, and they're driving to the basket and whatnot. And then Bonnicum's not involved in the offense. And then 5 trips later, they come down the court, and now they're into the offense with Bonnicum, but Mosley's not into the offense at that point in time, and so they're doing something different. And then they got to go. Then they go back to the Mosley model, and then they go back to the Bonnicum model. And I think that's screwing them up, especially late in the game. If suddenly, let's say you need Bonnicum to hit a shot. Let's just say it's Bonnicum. Could be anybody else. Let's say it's Bonnicum and they need to hit a shot, but you haven't fed him the ball in 5 or 6 trips down the court. I think that's where their problem is right now. They're in different places at the same time. It's almost like they're trying to get everybody involved, but they don't know how to do it. And I think that's Ramapo's problem right now. I don't know if they're overthinking it or they just haven't found a way to get everything to gel. They're a good team. They got great talent. I think they can do wonders in the NCAA tournament, but they're going to have to figure a way to play the Bonnicum and Mosley game amongst other guys. I'm just using those as 2 different points of view at the same time. And I think they're struggling there. If that makes any sense. I think there's something off with what they're doing offensively. And again, I go back to the Central game where they kind of got loosey-goosey and thought they were going to blow out Central and lost focus. They definitely have struggles focusing for 40 minutes and understanding what they need to do on the court at all times. That has not been Ramapo's strength recently. And I don't know what the fix is. That's certainly not where I excel. But I think they need to get Bonnicum involved more often and not go through dry patches. And as a result, you got to do it with Mosley and the rest of them too. You got to find a way that everybody's involved almost every trip down the court, instead of it being one part of the team one time and one part of the team another time. And it's not working. And they're in trouble, to believe it or not, if they keep taking hits in the NJAC, they're in trouble of not being in the NCAA conversation because their at-large will take enough of a hit. They didn't do enough work in the out-of-conference, in my opinion, to set themselves up nicely. I know Night Slappy's run his numbers. I haven't seen him, so I can't speak to him. But, yeah, so that's kind of where I'm coming from on them. I think Ramapo's in a little weird area right now, and I don't know if they know how to get out of it. He said you might be able to put this out there as soon as things are confirmed. Maybe everybody know about the Hoopsville Marathon and its purpose. Well, the Hoopsville Marathon will be Thursday, February 1, unless we somehow change our minds. Thursday, February 1 will be our visit to the Hoopsville Marathon. Its purpose, and I think the point of the question there was, in the past it's been about our fundraiser. We'll talk more about this later, but I'm not sure if we're doing a fundraiser this year. It's tough to talk about, but for me personally, I feel weird with the fundraiser. I felt we've asked for money and gotten lots of money over the years that we've had to spend on things we didn't want to spend them on. New computers, new gear that we didn't plan on spending on, and as a result, we couldn't go on trips. I know people have been more than gracious with their money with us, and we greatly appreciate it, and maybe we'll find a way. We're trying to do the advertising route, but I'm way behind trying to get that off the ground. But we're going to make a push this week to get that off the ground. And if that is successful, we don't necessarily need a formal fundraiser, but we're still going to do the marathon. Marathon will be Thursday, February 1st. We'll talk about more of that when we come up, but 10 a.m. Eastern will be the start of that. We're already working on guests, believe it or not, for that event. That's going to do it for us tonight. We got to get off the air. I want to make sure there wasn't another question. I know there was some other stuff sent to us. We couldn't get to it. I apologize. But I appreciate everybody taking the opportunity to join us if we can, or if you did, even if it's on air, even if it's on demand, not on air live. A reminder, next Sunday we will not be on the air with our traditional Hoopsville. We will push it right now to Monday afternoon, the following day. We're looking to do an afternoon show just to do some things differently and leave the night a little bit open. We'll put a little pressure on me to get my top 25 done sooner. It may change to Monday night, but I'm trying to stay away from that. I'm trying to do it Monday afternoon, get it out of the way, and try and do it a little differently during the day, which is sometimes fun with coaches. But we're going to be at the Palestra in Philadelphia on the campus of the University of Pennsylvania, where the Centennial Conference is playing 5 games that day at the Palestra, finishing with a men's game between McDaniel and Muhlenberg. I've been asked by the conference to call a number of those games, so I will be doing so. If not all of them, most of them. We may do some quick little Facebook Periscope type hits in between games. We'll also try and get an interview or two for the next day's Hoopsville. So just be aware, next Sunday, not on the air. We'll be on the air Monday the 15th instead. Of course, Thursday's show, as normal, will be on the air 7 o'clock Eastern Time. As aforementioned, the Hoopsville Marathon around the corner on February 1st. I want to thank our guests, Tim Shanahan from Staten Island, Roy Mulholland from Greenville, Charlie Brock from Springfield, David Wilson from Emory and Henry, and, of course, Ryan Scott in our Top 25 segment. Also want to thank all of our SIDs who help us put that all together as well. Got a question. I know somebody sent us a couple videos. No videos. We had tech issues tonight, losing one of the monitors and some other glitches that have kept us from actually opening up some of our programs here tonight. So, no, we had to kind of strip it down a little bit more bare tonight. I apologize. I know this one particular person wants to see those videos. Unfortunately, can't show them tonight. We had a couple of them lined up. They just weren't available. Again, we'll be on the air Thursday. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. A friend of ours on YouTube reminds us it is Whitman versus Whitworth coming up on, I believe it's Tuesday. Number 8, Whitworth. There's another team I'm not voting for. I kid you not. Go to my blog. I'm not voting for Lycoming as of yet. I'm not voting for Juniata as of yet. I'm not voting for Whitworth as of yet. I'm not voting for Swarthmore as of yet. There's a lot of teams in the top 25 and high. Whitworth at 8, Lycoming at 6, Swarthmore wherever they are, that don't even have on my ballot. Doesn't mean they won't be this week, but it's crazy. It's how crazy the season. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm not saying the other voters aren't right or wrong, but there's a lot of teams. Anyway, number 1, Whitman is hosting number 8, Whitworth. That is coming up on Tuesday night. The person said, do you think the Pirates will be able to keep the Blues under 100 points? I actually do think the Pirates will keep on 100 points, but it'll be a high-scoring affair nonetheless. I look forward to watching that game coming up as well. But that's going to do it for us. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Again, we'll be back here Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. A reminder, on Thursdays, we'll primarily talk to the East, Mid-Atlantic, Great Lakes, and West regions, maybe a South team thrown in when the schedules don't work out for them to be on a Sunday. Our Sunday night shows tend to be Northeast, Atlantic, South, and Central regions. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. Interact with us when you can. Appreciate you taking the time to watch or listen via our podcast. I want to also thank the WBCA, NABC, and D3Hoops.com for their support as well. A reminder that this is a copyrighted broadcast. Any use of this broadcast, you better get some permissions from me to do so. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll talk to you on Thursday night. You've been watching Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. Good night, everybody.